Hello, everybody. Welcome back to day number 3 of the All Stars Cup in Clash Royale, and you're taking a look at some of what we've seen so far. We're going to be doing both winner's bracket and lower bracket, or elimination bracket, or to make it real rude, the loser's bracket, depending on how you want to describe it. We'll be seeing some of the action on both sides of the bracket today, and of course, we've already seen some good stuff you're seeing right now. Some of the winners here, people you totally expected. Ruben moved on to our round number 2. Jack as well. The big upset yesterday, which maybe is a medium upset, depending on how well you know these players. Mini Minter with the big-time clutch in the lightning block against Elsiop yesterday. He'll be moving on into the winner's bracket, of course. Elsiop will not be out yet, has some more opportunities. We'll face Cody Go of Colombia, as you can see later on that left-hand side. And now looking at the lower bracket here, Vitor and Igor going head-to-head. We'll see some of that, I believe, today as well. Boss has already moved on in that lower bracket. So a couple eliminations already so far, but a lot of big-time names still fighting for their shot at part of this massive, massive prize pool, and more on that breakdown later. Of course, this tournament all the way through is in duel mode. What does that mean? What is duel mode? You ever played Clan Wars 2? You haven't? Where have you been this whole time? Duel mode. For the best of 3 sets. What that means is that if you play a card in game number 1, that card is no longer able to be played in any of your decks for the remainder of that best of 3. So you play Fireball in deck number 1. Deck number 2, you better play Poison or No Spell or anything else other than Fireball. It creates a lot of deck variance. Should be very interesting to watch. Of course, the rules adjust a bit for best of 5s. More on that when we get into the BO5 section of this tournament. But so far, it's been interesting. We've seen some really crazy decisions, and I'm excited to see how it shakes out over time. And guys, today, I'm very excited. Hello, good to see you. I'm very excited to be here and to bring you some more of this great Clash Royale competition. And I told you I had special guests coming, and this is about as special as it gets. Welcome, who's going to be joining us for the stream today. My friend, top-tier coach for Team Liquid, longtime member of the Clash Royale community, Eric EB7, will be joining us for casting today. Eric, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to cast with you. Not sure why my camera is looking like this, but hey, we'll fix it along the way, I guess. It was working great 3 seconds ago.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm excited. It's been a lot of fun to watch this, and casting not usually my thing, but gonna try it, and not only try it but in English here with you. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, if you guys don't already know, Eric has a big and thriving channel over on Twitch. Some of you I know are watching on Twitch, and I'll get my Twitch chat up in a minute, guys. For the moment, the Twitch chat is not up, but it's a thriving channel in Spanish, though, en español, where it's you've been blowing up over on Twitch as of late.
Yeah, been streaming like 7 to 8 hours a day, all types of different content, but I'm excited to be creating content and being around all the community that while I'm in CRL I can't really do. So yeah,
great. Yeah, go ahead and check him out. If you're on Twitch, you probably already know where his channel is. For everyone who's watching, what's your Twitch channel one more time?
It's Eric_EB7.
Eric_EB7. So we'll try to throw that one in there when we get a chance later. Coming up in just a moment here, though, our first match of the day. And let me go ahead and give you guys a little more of the audio from the game here. Oh, well, I guess we'll be with that match in just a couple of minutes. For those of you in the chat right now over on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And, of course, here is the bracket for today's action. Let me go ahead and throw that one in there. Yeah, Eric's net is stuck sometimes. Well, guys, I don't know if you know this, but Eric and I are from different parts of the country, and the internet is how we communicate to each other. And occasionally, it's going to be a little bit glitchy here and there, so thanks for bearing with us as that goes on. And yes, the challenge bracket should be coming into the YouTube chat here in just one moment. There you go. So I think that our first match, I hear that noise. First match kicking off now. Here we go. It's going to be Geralt against Sweep. And Eric, I think you have the. I sent you the clean feed earlier?
Yeah, I do. I do have the clean feed. I'm gonna turn off and on my camera in this while we're watching this match to see if it fixes. Not sure what happened there. There we go. It looks good now.
Oh yeah, you're all properly colored and everything.
Yeah. All right. There we go.
So here we go. Rich, will you predict the winners of each match? No, I don't feel like being wrong a lot of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and hold off on predicting the winners in every match. Eric, do you want to go out and just go on a limb and start saying who you think's going to win and lose?
I have no problem doing it. I'll probably be wrong, as I was probably all 2021 CRL season. I think I predicted like 3 right scores. But I'll go with, you know what? I'll keep it in the West. I believe in Sweep.
Sweep certainly had a bit of a breakout year this year. A guy who almost wasn't in the league. A couple of things had to bounce the right way, but I'm sure Payne's very happy that they had him in the end. And here he goes, Royal Giant left-hand lane. So Royal Giant, Giant Skeleton, Electro Spear on both sides, making a bit of a surge here in this month.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, in this format, I think it's a pretty good card to use because you don't really want to waste the Heal Spirit or the Ice Spirit, seeing as you can't repeat cards. And if you do play something along the lines of bait with the Skelly Barrel and all this, it actually counters pretty well. But yeah, I think it's a good card. That's
one of the really interesting things I think that I'm excited to have you here for today, Eric, is the conversation around this duel mode and, you know, the extra information it gives, sort of the meta shifts that it might create. I mean, obviously we'll be asked about 10,000 times today about our thoughts on duel mode. But I'm really curious as we go through this, sort of your insight on the multi-part deck building and how it relates to competitive Clash Royale.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually lived this in a competition. I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of 2020, there was a DreamHack event, which we went with Liquid. And they had this mode. It obviously wasn't implemented into the game yet, but we did have to send 3 decks, and each one had to be completely different and based on cards. As a coach, I'm not that fond of it. As a spectator, I don't mind it at all.
Why, as a coach, are you not fond of it?
Because you always want to put your players with their best decks, right? You always want to put them in the best possibility to win and in their strong suit and everything, and sometimes their strong suit requires the same card. So as a coach, when you all you care about is winning, this isn't the best format for me. But as a spectator, it's great. You get to see them play a bunch of different archetypes, a bunch of different decks.
So here's a question for you. I mean, how much does this limit the ability for players to play what they're best at? Do you think that players will adapt to it as time goes on? And then from a coaching standpoint, I guess, well, you know, sorry to give you 3 questions at once, but from a coaching standpoint, from terms of like finding the correct matchup and preparing decks and things like that, is there any argument that this gives players a better chance from that perspective, since you have more information, especially as the game goes on?
I think it depends, first off, on the style, because in DreamHack, you couldn't change your decks every round. I don't know how it is here. Can you change your decks for every round?
Yes.
Okay, so that's better, because in the other format, you kind of already knew what was coming. So if you didn't see his graveyard deck yet, you know the graveyard deck is up next, and you can kind of play accordingly. But if it is where you could change every round and all that, I actually don't mind it at all. I think that plays more into how well you can prepare for each opponent and how the surprise factor. Players that are mainly, I don't like calling them one tricks, but it is what it is. A lot of ladder players play one deck or one style archetype. They'll play Expo and Icepo, or those are the players that are going to be the most affected by it, because you can't, at this point in the game, most of them, you can't really teach versatility. You know, like they're used to playing what they play, and we've seen it work in CRL. We've seen one tricks work in CRL.
I mean, who would you say is the most, that's actually interesting, who would you say is the most successful quote-unquote one trick that you've seen in CRL? Who's remained a one trick, who hasn't adapted?
Who's remained the one trick? I don't think that there has been a fully successful one trick that remained the one trick. I think what we can kind of say is Lapocati and Igor, in the sense that I don't think they ever play any heavy beatdown decks. Maybe they once in a season, but they always, you can always expect to see either a mortar, a miner, or something along those lines. So they're more like one trick archetypes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where it almost became a meme to a certain point. I don't know how much you had a chance to listen to the English broadcasts for CRL. You were obviously working a lot of the time. But it became to the point where, especially with Lapo and Igor in particular, where we were pretty much expecting a mortar deck in game number 2 of a best of 3 or game number 2 of King of the Hill. Did you guys start to pick up on that on your end, or was that something that was just sort of an observation on our side?
I know, yeah, we picked up on that for sure. We knew more for Lapo on the second deck mortar, and then we had this tendency to either go first or third with the mortar because we didn't want to fall into that Lapo, what people would expect for Lapo. And then this season was more of like, okay, let's shy away from the mortar, let's not even play it. But it's hard, you know, when a player that good like Igor and Lapo want to play mortar, it's hard for you to say, you know, like, no, you're not playing mortar, you're not going to touch it, you're not going to do this. So once in a while you do pull it out, but I feel like every deck that they play Igor and Lapo with is going to be good against mortar, whether they snipe it or not. It's always going to be good, and you kind of adapt, but at the same time you kind of know how good they are with it, and you're like, you know what, let's just roll with it, they can win anyway.
Yeah, that's I guess one of those interesting things. You know, we talk a little bit in CRL about, you know, deck selection in terms of when do you go for matchup, or when do you go with like a player like Igor talking about going for an outplay deck, right? And, you know, with Igor with mortar, we've already seen, of course, at CRL World Finals, the match against Dandelion, aka now became Blizzard, that was a total outplay in that World Finals moment. That was a good matchup for Dandelion, and of course Igor was brilliant in that moment. And so that takes us back to here, right? So let's take a look at the decks that we just saw, because now we know a lot of this is out. And one of the things that we've seen a big shift in here is that, look at the spell choice from both Sweep and Geralt. Geralt going with the delivery and arrows, which I think we're going to see a lot more of in this format. And then, of course, or delivery and an EQ, and then Sweep going with arrows. You know, a lot of those outplay decks rely on a lot of the small cycle cards. Do you think that this hinders that at all, or do you think the smart deck creators will still be able to find some good high cycle outplayability style decks?
I think because of how the game has evolved, it's gonna be okay. Just because we do have 3 spirits, that all the little cycle cards, the bats, the skellies, you could even play guards if needed. There's enough cycle cards to where cycle players can make at least 2 decks. I don't know about 3, but at least 2. Where it does hurt a little bit is on the spells, like you said. If you want to play graveyard, which you probably do in these metas, you need to save the poison, basically. So the poison's like a non-touchable spell, which then you cannot use in a minor cycle, you know. So it that can get a little complicated. But the fact that I think the balance team, without us realizing, made almost every spell viable, right? Before, no one touched arrows, very few people touched zap, and now you can kind of use arrows and zap in any deck and it's viable, so that's good.
Yeah, this does I mean, it is the weirdest quick way to balance the game, right? To make it so that you can only use a card once per set or once per match. So that's an interesting shift, and a good point there on the spells as well. So a bit of a staring contest here between Geralt and Sweep to start things off, and you can see the Twitter posts popping up over on the left-hand side. If you tweet #CrownTheKing, maybe you'll be featured over there on that left-hand side of the screen. So #CrownTheKing is what you want to put out there if you want to voice your opinion on what's happening next. And I do see people asking about OP Sam. OP Sam had to pull out of the event, so he did not lose 2 matches in a row. He just had to pull out, but we couldn't replace him in time. So he both of his opponents ended up getting buys. And yes, the man on the line with me today is longtime Team Liquid Clash Royale coach, my co-caster today, Eric EB7. So excited to have you here, Eric. And the Electro Giant, which we saw get a little bit of play near the end of the season and double down a second time here against Geralt.
I think when we were talking about Sweep, what they did really well this season was understand his deck choices. And I'm interested to see, I don't know if he's still working with someone or not, but I'm interested to see all his different deck choices in a competition like this. This is why I kind of went more the Sweep prediction than Geralt. Just because, I don't know if you remember, but throughout the whole season, I think Sweep used so many different decks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they were like just all over the place, from recruits to P.E.K.K.A to RG. Some were snipes, some were not, but I think a format like this does benefit someone like Sweep.
Yeah, I mean, one of the fun parts with Sweep was he started pulling out one-trick ladder decks. And when I mean one-trick ladder decks, I mean, I can't remember what deck it was.
The Mohamed Parsa deck.
Yeah, the Mohamed Parsa deck. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I remember looking at that and going, okay, well, it didn't end up paying off, which I remember Payne's coaches privately told me they were kind of happy it didn't pay off, so he wouldn't keep doing that. But it certainly was exciting.
Yeah, it's like deep down you're like, okay, I want him to win, but like if he wins, he's gonna get more of these ideas, and like let's take the loss here just for the sake of the team.
Here we go, Baby Dragon Ice Wiz working on the graveyard, but that Ice Golem getting some good tankage in, a lot of skeleton damage on the right-hand side, down to 537 to 536. 1 HP separating these two as we go into triple elixir. Lightning does not get on tower and does not get much. A little bit of Goblin Cage action, but enough to get through.
That quick cycle was saving him, but it's just there's nothing he can really do when his main defense for tanks is an Infernal Dragon, and he resets that with his tank. So it's and a lightning. There's nothing he could do.
Quick, easy 2-0 for Sweep. So a guy who's had a pretty darn good 2020 still continuing to add more to it. And here you go, taking a look at game number 2. So, you know, we've started seeing a bit of this. People using decks that don't show their hand for big spells in game number 1. It was Earthquake and Delivery for Geralt in game 1. It was just the arrows for Sweep. And then you see the big shift in game number 2. Graveyard so far being, I think, the most popular game number 2 archetype, Eric.
Yeah, I feel like you want to use it either game 1 or 2, because if you don't see a graveyard game 1 or 2, you know it's coming game 3. So it's like your opponent knows what he's going to play against. I highly doubt we'll see many players not include a graveyard deck at all in their 3 deck choice. So I don't mind it game 2. I would try to even use it game 1. I wouldn't save it for game 3 just because of how predictable it is, in my opinion.
How many you think people? So I mean, people trying to make their choice on there, but also it's a question of, if you're preparing for this event, Eric, do you prepare 2 decks that would at least match up decently against Graveyard, pull the trigger on one of them in game number 2, and then hope that's what it is, but still have a good one for game 3?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way to go. I wouldn't necessarily use Graveyard if I'm not like that comfortable with it. I don't think it's a must-have, but I think having, like you said, 2 decks that go well, you don't have to snipe, you don't have to do any of that, but just go well, you have a pretty high chance that in the second or third game, you're going to have a good matchup. It's just the odds, the way the meta is going right now, the way the deck choices are, it's a smart thing to do.
So here we go. Our next matchup, Elsiop, one of the greatest to ever play the game, one of the best live event players in the history of Clash Royale, up against the captain of Colombia, Cody Go. for our next best of 3. And as you see, this is losers matches phase 1. We are not going necessarily in order, everyone, folks. We're going to do all the matches that include players from the East first, because obviously time zones make things challenging for some of those players in this event. So we're going to get their matches out of the way early, so we'll get some good information pretty quickly through this one. You know, Eric, it's interesting. Elsiop is one of those guys who, outside of live event competition, doesn't have, this big, crazy resume of accolades. He's not like Sam or Igor, who are big ladder murderers and have just essentially racked up kills over and over again. But when it comes to live event play, it seems like there's very few players who can come even close to matching what Elsiop has done.
Yeah, and I think there's just some players that don't love the online play. I think we saw that with Surgical Goblin as well over the years. At the beginning, there was a little more online, but like he just wasn't interested. I feel when you get to a certain success in what it is live events, you kind of lose that online interest. And I think that's what happened with Elsiop. At the beginning, he did play a lot of ladder and all this stuff. He still does here and there, just not as much as the other players. But when we talk about GOATs of the game, he's definitely up there, in my opinion. It was Surge and Elsiop fighting for it up until this World Finals, where Ruben just was like, nah, you know what? Like, give me that title, and then they can have second and third place.
Yeah, this becomes an interesting question that people debate about a lot right now. You know, the best in the world debate. And here we go, jumping in to game number 1. The best in the world, the GOAT, however you want to put it. That debate's one that goes back and forth a whole lot. But after what you saw from Ruben over the course of 2020, you know, I don't know if his resume is quite there for greatest of all time yet, but it certainly puts him in the conversation at least. But at least from my opinion, Eric, correct me with your more expert view if I'm wrong on this one, it seems like the actual level of play that we saw from Ruben in 2020 is the best level of play we've seen anyone put on over the course of a whole year.
Yeah, I actually, but I have like a podcast now with Koji, and I went out there and I said straight away, he's the GOAT in my opinion, because I can't fault him for being born 3 years too late. Like it wasn't his fault. So in my opinion, ever since he stepped onto the competitive scene and he's been able to play anything, I've never seen anyone as dominant as him. And to me, that's good enough to be the GOAT. You don't need to be the one that for 6 seasons did it. If you've done it for 2 seasons, have done it better than anyone else.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And people who only watch CRL didn't watch him in SLO, and he was an absolute monster in there as well. Of course, different level of competition, but it translated pretty quickly over to the Clash Royale League arena.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever was like, oh, it's SLO, that's why Ruben is like this. No, he's so dominant. I don't think anyone in the world could have done what he did at Worlds. Did he go? He went like 6-0 or something.
It was nutty. I mean, that kid needs a whole bucket of icy hot and a hammock to rest that back for a while.
Yeah, and all this we have to factor in that he's not playing the 3rd set, right? He's not playing the 2nd best player on each team. He's playing Mugi twice. He's playing Hajime twice. He's playing all these players, the best of every team twice, and doing these performances. So to me, there's no doubt about it. He's the GOAT after his Worlds performance.
Yeah, it was very, very impressive, but definitely one of those guys who, we've talked a little bit about the and look at that, Angelo saying thanks Sweet for playing different decks. A little shout out to Koji on that one, so I guess he's watching a little halfway English, halfway Spanish here for Angelo. I don't mind a Koji shout out. Koji and I were laughing yesterday because there was someone in my chat here on YouTube who was complaining that I wasn't hype enough as the Spanish guys, and then there was someone in his chat on Twitch who was saying, I'm gonna go watch English because you yell too much. So
yeah. I saw your tweet about it. I was just laughing because I mean, Koji is one of my best friends, so like I've seen all the messages he gets from all the casting and all that, and some stuff is just so funny to me.
Oh yeah, well it's people who like complain about. It's like, just go watch the other one.
Yeah, like you're not forced. Yeah, they're both on the same internet. You just have to go to a different tab. They're there, I promise.
Oh, here we go. Look at this one. Left-hand side, Elsiop dominating here. 142 remaining. Needs to get back around to 1 more poison. Has to play 1 more round of defense here. Should have the DPS for it, though. Royal Giant distracted easily, and that's going to be a nice GG here for Elsiop once that poison comes down.
Yeah, that was a great deck choice on Lciop's part.
Yeah, this is one of the decks we've seen the most so far in this tournament. The Mortar Cannon Cart Graveyard deck. It's been very popular. Interesting to go with it in game number 1. We were just talking about that earlier. But it also, you know, we're talking about the game of how you do that, play that matchup. If people are expecting Graveyard to be your game 2 or game 3 deck, there's an argument that going in game 1 and kind of not giving them a chance to counter it is a nice move.
Yeah, it's definitely the right move in my opinion. It's why I said it, because right now, as you've seen, I think we've seen what, both matches, one player started with RG, and RG typically doesn't have a great matchup versus what Graveyard players do play, which is this style deck. So it's good. It's a surprise. People are like, no, he'll probably save it second like you expected, or third to you know, use the best archetype to close out the set, and he surprised him and he got a great matchup.
So you can see, again, keep an eye on the matchup data here. One thing we'll all need to keep an eye on for those of you watching at home is the data powered by Royale API. The sample size here very small in the 7 of 8 matchup, so not even the precise 8 for 8 card matchup. The data here very small. You get down to 6 of 8, which means that, and I'm guessing that's more about this Royal Giant deck on the right-hand side. You get a bigger sample size, and now you see the Graveyard matchup start to swing, but yeah, we're going to see a lot of matchups that we haven't seen these precise matchups before because of the dual mode format. So that's game number 1 in the books. Poison Graveyard Cannon Card out for Elsiop, and Cody Go burns the very popular Royal Giant deck. So now, Eric, we go into game number 2 here in just a moment. And what do you think from the matchup here? Do you think Elsiop does go with Graveyard, or do you think Cody Go goes with Graveyard here in game number 2, or does he wait for game 3?
I think we might see kind of what I'd expect is like a flip in matchup. Maybe Elsiop goes towards an RG deck, and then Kodigo switches to a Graveyard deck. I think we might see an inverse matchup here. It makes sense looking at all the cards. I think Elsiop's strongest point right now would be going to a Fireball RG deck, and looking at the cards that Kodigo used, he has. Yeah, look, I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, I missed on Elsiop, but it still could be on the other side.
Morton, Cody Go down with the mortar, pigs to the right-hand side.
Looks like it. Looks like he might have used the Elsiop deck as I thought he would. But it's different when you play Hoggies. And I don't mind it at all. I think Hoggies has a better chance to get through than RG does for sure.
Connection on the left-hand side with the mortar. And is Cody Go, I mean, could Cody Go also be going Skeleton Barrel here? No, with the poison now, that's probably going to be... Yeah, it's kind of what I said, I think, with the inverse matchup. There you go.
He definitely, on the other side, said, all right, Elsiop kind of predicted the same thing, I assume, and he said, I don't have a great matchup with either of them, but I think I can get through with this. I cycle a lot quicker. I have a chance of one Hoggy, you know, slipping through. I have bait for his poison. So I think it's a good choice on Elsiop's side.
But you still get the slight matchup advantage here to Cody Go.
Yeah. Yeah, so, just because there's no great... once you get into that double elixir, there's no real great way to stop a full Graveyard push, right? There's nothing that survives the poison. There's nothing that can constantly kill the Skellies. So I think at the end, one good push will take at least one tower, if not 2.
So you got the secret here for Elsiop's going to be try to get as much damage in single as possible and be ahead as we go into double and triple.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's already done enough, in my opinion, because of how strong the Earthquake is on tower and how cheap it is compared to other spells. He's kind of already done enough. As long as he keeps pressuring, not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily need the Hoggies to hit. He needs to force Kodigo to keep defending, which is what he's doing, and waste that elixir so that he doesn't have to deal with full Graveyard push. That's his main goal right now. And even with that defense, wow. All right,
wow, those pigs are shredding the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. does not connect on the left, doesn't matter. Final 25 seconds, and that Magic Archer getting a lot of value at the bridge. And this is what Elsiop did at World Finals. Really opportune Magic Archer play. Got 9 shots in a row on tower. I believe it was against Vitor in their matchup with Pain. I could be wrong about the exact player. Log trying to hold off here against the Graveyard. Doesn't matter. That's going to be it. Very, very well played. You know, people might say what they want to say about Elsiop online or offline, but it seems right now with the Elsiop with a magic archer in his hand is absolutely deadly.
Yeah, he's been playing amazing. Even I don't know why a lot of people were talking about his World Finals performance. He actually played amazing. He looked like he was playing under like some sort of sickness or something like that, but he was the only one on Nova that I could genuinely say played so well. His matches were all mechanically almost perfect, other than the 2v2. The 2v2 was a little different story, but his set 1v1 set was great.
Well, it's one of those things also. I imagine you guys didn't see the rehearsals, but because you're in that big arena over there in Shanghai that normally would be filled with tons of people, I imagine it was freezing cold. During rehearsals, they were all bundled up wearing jackets and sweaters and sweatshirts, and it looked like it was absolutely freezing. So that's my guess here, is that part of it was just that it was cold in that big empty arena. Yeah,
it could be. It was so sad for me to see, because I got to experience Worlds, you know, with the whole crowd, and that arena was so nice. That arena for this year looked like it would have been a lot of fun to have everyone in there.
Yeah, it was. It felt like a missed opportunity, but you know, I'll tell you, and I'm curious about your opinion on this one. Partway through the broadcast, I turned to Andrew and I said, you know what I'm excited about or happy about right now is that even though we're not there, it still feels like World Finals, and I'm wondering if you had the same sort of feeling that it still, given the situation, it still felt like it was a CRL World Final.
I felt the same way as a spectator. I think not only did the event give off those vibes just on production standard, all the different cinematics, the stats, the way the players were playing, everything, but the casters as well, from English to Spanish to Portuguese, the emotion level was there as if you guys were live. So to me, it felt like it.
Yeah, and of course, Andrew and I pretending we were in the same room. I don't know, you know, if you
yeah,
watched us looking at each other, that was fun for us. You know, Koji and Manu got to actually be in the same room together in DC, so that was nice for them. But yeah, Andrew and I tried to put our acting skills to the best use and keep it going. Let's see, David Noriega in the YouTube chat saying, nerf the Earthquake. How can 3 Elixir spell do more damage than Fireball and Poison? Buff Fireball and Poison or nerf the Earthquake? Thoughts on that one, Eric?
I agree. I've said it in the past and I'll say it again. I don't think Earthquake tower damage makes a lot of sense. You know, when everything got nerfed for tower damage, Earthquake kind of just stood still. And when the cost is 1 elixir less, it doesn't really make sense to me. And I think that's why, I don't know if you've noticed, but most of the Earthquake decks end up winning the match cycling Earthquakes. They don't actually win on the win condition, especially the Hog Rider deck with JP. We've seen it so many times. He'll get 3-4 hog hits, and then it's just like, all right, I'll defend, and then I'll cycle these Earthquakes for the next minute and a half.
And that's a big part of that particular deck, the Hog EQ deck. It's so defensive, just shutting things down and using the Hog more, kind of what we saw from the Piggies here, right? Even though they ended up taking the tower, using the Hog more to create pressure and force expenditure rather than to actually get damage.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just because when you're getting guaranteed 200 plus damage off a 3 elixir spell, it's just worth it. If you think about it, when you put down a Hog, what you're trying to get is 1 hit, right, every time. But this is guaranteeing you 1 hog hit for 1 elixir less. So why would you keep pushing with the Hog when you could just guarantee this?
That's actually I never even thought about it. Guarantees you 1 hog hit for 1 elixir less. I guess the only reason is to force out elixir expenditure, but beyond that, go ahead and hit it. Isn't Eric the liquid coach? Yes. Not wearing the, oh no, he is wearing, there's a little liquid.
I got it. I'm repping it.
There you go. So that's an interesting question for you here. Obviously, a pretty big shift coming in CRL for 2021. You know, you've been a part of the coaching scene for a long time. What, if any, role do you still see for someone from a coaching or analysis perspective? You know, obviously it'd be a very big shift, but the comparisons have been made to things like prize fighting, golf, tennis, where there still are people in that ecosystem. Do you see what role, if any, do you see for those kind of people in CRL in 2021?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't compare with those sports just because I think there's so much more that's there to it with those sports. That for Clash, you can do it by yourself as a player, right? In those sports, I think you do need a coach. You need someone helping you with the whole course, with all this. But like, I think there's players that just prefer to pick their own decks, practice at their own times, and all this. So it's a little harder for a coach. The way that I see that you could still get involved is if you can put together like a group of 3 or 4 pros and work together as a staff, maybe hire your own analyst, not hire, but like work together within your own analyst, get 3 or 4 top players and be like, look, I'll create practices for you guys. We'll scrim every Monday. We'll have round robins. We'll talk about this. You'll have set practice partners where you don't have to worry about it. And we'll help you with analysis. And if you want deck choices, we can go there. And we'll just be like your coaching staff. But as an actual coaching staff, like we're set with CRL, I just don't see it.
So that's actually, you know, that's interesting. You kind of described the way that fight camps tend to work, where, you know, fighting is a very individual sport, but where a team comes together, they review tape together, they work with the same coaches, they scrim together. But in the end, you know, when you're in the ring by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how, I don't really know how those work just because it's not my thing. I like watching the fights, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. So yeah, I think that's the best route to go. The only problem I see is obviously staff and all that do get paid with salaries and all this. And now that you're not really part of an org for the most part, it's going to be hard to, you know, work through all these players and all this, because the players can't really give you salary when it's a prize pool based league now, right?
Sure, it does change things.
So it'll be hard, but you never know. It all, in my opinion, it all comes down to someone having a lot of success with a coach. If someone has a lot of success with the coach, that's when everyone's gonna be like, oh, okay, the route to go is a coach.
So guys, here's what we're finding out. Why is that? Oh, that's funny that they're playing that. So I guess it looks like Elsiop played a card, not a banned card, but a card that he already played. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the actual Discord conversation with League Ops and just get a confirmation on that one. But I do believe that is the issue that we're seeing here, folks.
That's unfortunate for him. I mean, Cody Go's happy, I guess, a second chance.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. I don't know how that happens. I think.
Let me go ahead. Well, they were requiring players to submit their decks beforehand, but the players didn't like that, so they took away that restriction.
Okay.
And then, of course, this is the kind of thing that might happen.
Yeah, I mean, freedom at the end of the day gives you more responsibility. So if they want it, they have to deal with the positives and the negatives. I like the. Yeah, I was not expecting to see Golem. Not gonna lie to you.
It was Hunter twice from Elsiop. So I'm gonna just go ahead and talk to League Ops here.
Yeah, he did have Hunter twice. This. I don't see how the Rams ever gonna get through, to be honest. I think as time goes by, should have a cage here. He has an Electro Spirit if he needs. Yeah, this is.
Sweep, yeah. Sweep's asking in YouTube chat. I believe they did. You have to check with League Ops on your own there, Sweep, about the pre-submitting decks. I could be wrong on that one, but I think that's why what happened with Elsiop is what happened there, is because they're no longer requiring you to pre-submit your decks, but we are still playing, of course, under the duel rules.
Yeah. And the result was the same. Elsiop moves on.
And the result is the same.
Yeah. It just took one more match, but the result was there.
GG, well played for Elsiop. And this time he didn't repeat any cards, I believe. But you can also see, this is some of the challenge, Eric, is you're so used to leaning heavily on certain cards that are, like Hunter, for example, that is in so many popular meta decks right now.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part. I know it's usually the hardest part when you're trying to get that third deck. You can easily make 2 decks, but the third one is where it gets complicated, just because you're going to use all the main cards. The support cards is the hardest part, right? Like, even if you have a Graveyard, an RG, and any other deck, even a hog deck, a fast deck, the support cards tend to be the same support cards. So that's where it gets a lot trickier, and they're not really replaceable, right? You can't really replace a hunter. There's no real one-for-one exchange, or a magic archer or a fisherman. So it gets very complicated to keep the same archetype that you like and that you feel comfortable with, and be able to have 3 decks.
And this is interesting. Little note here. Crap, aka AC from Space Station Gaming, jumping in on the Twitch chat side of things. We are both on Twitch and YouTube, saying Golem is somewhat viable in these duels. Pretty neat. And that's now, we've seen Golem a couple of times so far, and it seems like because duels, again, duels shifting the meta a little bit. We talked about diversity just because players have to play 3 different decks, of course, over the course of the match. But we've also seen Electro Giant, we've seen Ram Rider, we've seen Golem. We've seen kind of a wide variety already, and we're only, I think, 2 matches through the day.
Yeah, and I think to Akrap's point, once you see that they've used their deck with Fisherman, you're pretty clear to go in with the Golem deck, because usually the Fisherman decks are the ones that have the Hunter and the Fisherman and that counter well versus Golem. So once you've noticed, okay, I have my Golem deck, let's wait for him to use his Fisherman deck, which will probably be the RG or something along the lines of the Barb Hut decks and all that. You kind of have a more open path, more viable to use the Golem. So he is right. These decks, this battle format, definitely allows you to open up with that.
Coming up next in the lower bracket, elimination match between Line and Paradox. Line, the champion of the No Tilt World Championship, first place, the main solo competition so far of 2020. Very, very well played, of course, and a part of Talon and CRL East. Paradox, who performed well in the No Tilt World Championship, also in CRL East this season with TTG. That didn't turn out great for TTG this season, but Paradox still playing well. One of the many players out of Russia. You know, obviously, Eric, you know that there's some pretty talented players coming out of Russia, or coming out of the general North Asian region between Ukrainian players and Russian players. But even then, with we have Lapo, you have Igor, you have Dreaming Fly, you have
Legolas, you have a bunch of them.
It still seems like there's not as many as you would think, given how big how big of a population there is up there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the ones that are in CRL are the best, though. Like they're at the top, so it kind of it makes up for it. I'm okay if you have Lapo and Igor representing your region. I think you can't complain, but definitely you would expect a little bit more. And Paradox is someone that I've seen have great moments, but he's also had those stumbling moments. I think yesterday he played, right? It was yesterday or the day before. He had great deck choices, just couldn't close out either of the matches versus Anaban. So I'm interested to see his deck choices again here, and see if he can actually close out against someone who's probably at the same level as Anaban when it comes to competitive level, right? Line is one of the best, and I just want to see if he can hold his nerves this time.
And Line going to RG. We'll see if it's double or full-on triple spirit. My guess is it's just double, but you never know at this point. And one of the best moments of the CRL season, maybe not for you, but one of the best moments overall as a spectator, was Lapo trolling Igor with using his own the double spirit deck against him in CRL. And I guess that was actually Igor's deck.
It was.
Yeah. That's one of those moments. Talk to me a little about double spirit with Royal Giant, because some of these players make it look so easy, but obviously it is an insanely difficult deck to play at a high level.
Yeah, first, just to answer, that wasn't a great day for me. Just to answer that point. But no, the double spirit works very well because you can support. It's a great support for the RG for it to get another hit, right? You can, if you're using the Electro, it stops cards. It can kill bats. A lot of people will put some bats over there. It could also with the freeze, get that last extra hit. So it's a great card to have in RG. It's good for, you can use both on defense if you're good enough. If me and you are playing this deck, we're probably gonna lose, to be honest. But these players that can make an Electro Spirit work or an Ice Spirit or all this, it's just for them it's like a 3 elixir card, right? Like they make it look like the defense is supposed to look like that. As you can see, no hits, just basically using everything perfectly. So for them it works. On top of that, you cycle everything so quickly that your RGs, oh, my screen froze. I don't know if
it's still going on my end. Oh, okay, now mine just froze. So it's got to be because I think I'm about 2 seconds behind you. But mine's back on again now.
Let me refresh this, please. All right, there we go. There we go. Yeah,
22
so it's
seconds
basically
left. There we go.
Yeah, it's basically a cycle card that can, if you're good enough, you can. Ooh, that fireball. You can defend very well with, and it should allow you to get that extra hit on the RG on offense.
As you can see, getting those hits in right now. 8:04 right-hand side, 4 seconds left. And I typed it to respond, but someone asking how can Rich narrate and write in the chat at the same time? Well, I try to write when Eric's talking, and then also, of course, just I'm OP. So, you put those two things together. And there you go. Hog not going to get a shot here. 18:33 remaining as we are in sudden death overtime. So far, it has been all line in this one. And, you're talking about some of those decks, Eric, where you see a pro play it and you think, oh, this could totally work out for me. And then you discover just the big difference between the level we're watching right now and the level of even a very good Clash Royale player.
Yeah, it's not even us. It's just like you realize why they're there and we're here, right? Yeah, it's not that we can't make it to, these trophy levels and all that. But when you're playing against players of this caliber and you're using this type of deck, it's incredible. I've tried it and it just doesn't work.
Triple elixir on its way, and just straight up fireball cycle right now for Line, who can get around so quickly. And watch this. He hunters because he knows that the Hog's about to come in, wants to be a little bit safe here. So good safety play out of Line. Fireball finishes it off, and that was picture perfect play from the Talon Esports Clash Royale Pro.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, but the heal spirit, not the heal spirit, the double spirit, the fact that he had that was the only reason he didn't lose this game, in my opinion. He started cycling earthquakes so quickly that if he wouldn't have been at this speed of cycle on this RG deck, I think he would lose. Honestly, he did you see? I think he had like 1,600, 1,700 on his tower when Paradoxes had 700, and he just kept cycling earthquakes, and he ended up with 400 on his tower.
Yeah, that ended up getting very, very close. So this is actually the version of Hog EQ I think we're going to see. Obviously, it began to come out more in CRL as people moved away from the Snowball Musketeer version into this version. But I think this one also is the version of Hog Triple Spell that makes more sense overall in duel mode, just because you can save the Snowball for something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though he didn't touch the Royal Delivery, it does make sense to use this and not waste one of the most important small spells in the game.
So, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be with our next match in a moment. And remember, we're not in charge of the match pace. We're working on a feed being delivered to us from the production company in Brazil. So thank you for your patience in between matches as we wait for the next one to load on up. And as long as you're here and waiting for the next one, go ahead and hit subscribe on my YouTube channel. We passed 13,000 subs just the other day, and I'm going to keep on trying to push up and bring you guys more great Clash Royale stuff. Of course, with the new version of CRL in 2021, what hasn't been talked about as much, Eric, what I'm really excited about, and I think a lot of people in the content creating community are excited about, is that while we are going to be having this regular monthly CRL, we are also going to have a big uptick in community event tournaments like this one, which, you talk about trying to make money in Clash Royale, or you talk about having a full-on competitive scene. This, I can't remember, what is the price pool for this? $25,000 or $30,000 or something for this event?
Yeah, 25,000. Yeah.
So you look at something like this. There's another major event coming up, and let's go jump back into the game. Another major event coming up in January that also has got already has a 33,000 euro prize pool set aside for it. They'll be in January as well. While there's going to be a big shift in CRL, it seems there's also going to be a lot more money than the $1,000 or $1,500 tournaments that we're used to with the Revel Run Cups that we've had so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not only is that good for the players, but it's great for content creators. The fact that now basically all year is open, right? Before you couldn't do it during CRL because CRL players were in CRL, practicing for CRL, exclusive to CRL. But the fact that now year round we're gonna have community tournaments, and not only the big ones, but I'm sure we'll have smaller $500 weekend cups or $1,000 weekend cups, and all that adds up, right? At the end of the day, not only content but prize pool and all this opportunity for pros to play, to make money. I think it's great. I honestly, on the content creation side, on the community side, on everything, I think this is the way to go. It involves everyone a lot more. And Rich, let's be honest, I'm not complaining at the fact that every month I can possibly see Morden play against Ruben or all these matchups. I'm not complaining. And if we have a lot of community tournaments, that means they're going to be playing there as well. So you know what? Yeah, I'll miss the team events. There's definitely something special to it, but I'm not going to complain when I get to see Morden, Igor, Lapo, Mugi, all these players play every weekend. I'm okay with it.
That's going to be really, really great. And yeah, I see people in the chat noticing that Paradox has Earthquake again. So I don't know the exact way the rule set works here, but I believe that they play this game out, and if Line wins, Line just wins, and sorry to Paradox. If Paradox win, I believe this is going to be a replay. So I'm going to go ahead and check with League Ops right now and get an answer on that one.
That's weird. That's actually I thought it would be like just a straight forfeit. It's weird in the sense that like Paradox kind of has a free life as well as Line, because if he wins, it's like okay. But I think we'll just go again.
Yeah, I think this. I'm checking to see if Line wins, if that means it's over. But if Paradox, I'm asking them right now.
I think it should be over either way, just because of the fact that Line won the first match, right? Because if Paradox wins this and it doesn't count, at best it would be a 1-1-1. So I think it should be a win for Line, which he is winning anyway. So it's looking like that.
I'm checking with League Ops right now on this one, because they, like we saw with Elsiop, you get a warning for your first violation. That's what happened with Elsiop.
Oh, okay.
They just got a replay there. So this would be a warning for Paradox, but I'm wondering if Line wins even with this restriction. I think that should be Line going through, but I don't know what the actual rule set says for the event.
Yeah, no, if Line wins, it should 100% be him going through. They played it out. He wins. I don't see any rule set where he doesn't go through. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong in something, but
we'll find out.
We're going to find out in 30 seconds.
We're not in charge of the rules here. 322, Miner to the back. Earthquake cycling in for Line. Line's more than allowed. So that I got it confirmed. If Line wins here, it just is a win for Line. And if Paradox wins here, we go to a replay. And so Line goes ahead, gets the win. And here we go. Line will move on, and Paradox, I guess they say that I wasn't going to call him a cheater, because that's not exactly what he did here. He just made a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
But, the ball don't lie, as they say sometimes. And Line goes and pulls out the win.
Yeah, that's weird that, I don't know, 2 matches in a row where people use a card that they shouldn't. It's kind of disappointing, just because you always want to see, that the match is going to count and that the match will 100% determine everything. But you can't. It's on the players. It's on the players. It's not on the league.
Well, this is why they initially had the rule of submit decks beforehand, so that the league ops could check to make sure. But players, partially they're lazy and don't want to send their decks in beforehand. And partially they wanted to have the flexibility of, watching playing game number 1 and going, okay, here are the 8 cards that my opponent played in game number 1. In game 2, I was going to play Zap here, but I could play Zap or Snowball. Let me play Snowball, for example, based off what I saw. So I think that from a competitive standpoint, building your decks as they go along is the best, the most competitive way. But from a production standpoint and from a League Ops standpoint, we see the pitfalls of that here, especially with players playing from home as opposed to in a live event.
Yeah, like you said, adaptability is probably the key word there for the players, that they, after seeing each deck, they could go ahead and, build based on that. But when we think about it, to make a deck to not repeat anything in 30 seconds that they have, or 1 minute, we're going to have these mistakes. I think what they should have, in my opinion, what the players should do is have 3 pre-built decks and then leave 2 slots in case they want to adapt last second. But at least they know that these 3 decks will not repeat anything. I think that's the way to go.
I think that's a good idea. And also, I think that whether it's on paper or on their computer next to them, having like a cross-off sheet. So you just get rid of, so you look at, here are the cards I can and can't use, and have that in front of you very clearly, that you double check your deck before you go into your next game.
Yeah, the only issue I see with all these things that we're giving is at the end of the day, I know these players and most of them will barely wake up to play the match. So let's not get ahead of ourselves on checklist and prepare these, you know.
Sure.
I'm just happy they're here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the number of times that I've like hit somebody up. I mean, I think AC is probably still over in Twitch, and during the regular season, I think I hit him up to cast an event one time last year. And he didn't get back to me until like 3 in the afternoon. And he was like, sorry, I think he was like, I slept till 5 or something like that. And that's just the schedule some of these players are on when they're really on the grind.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. They put in a lot of hours, the schedules get all mixed up. And on top of that, there is there's a little lazy factor in there for some of them. I'm not going to lie. I lived through it. You can't lie to me. But hey, as long as they're here, they're competing, and they're actually trying, I'm happy. If we have 1 or 2 mistakes on decks, it is what it is. But this matchup, this I'm excited about.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah. This is a great one. Mohamed Light and JupiteKing, 2 of the top young players. And this has been a good year. When you talk about the 16-year-olds who've come into the league, who've the players who've turned 16 this year, maybe is a better way to put it. This has been a really good year, a good crop of 16-year-olds. You have Mo, obviously, you have Jupiter, you have Mugi, you have a lot of really good players who turned 16. Hajime. Yeah. Where do you rank the 2020 class of 16-year-olds? If you think about, of course, last year we had Lciop, Igor, Ruben. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. The only reason they aren't the best is because you had Lciop, Igor, and Ruben all in 1 year. Yeah. That's simply, you have 2 world champions. You have Lciop, who's just 2 times CRL West champion. You just can't really compare. And they were all the best players, probably 1v1 players on their team or in the world when they did this, right? So
yeah, it's pretty nutty. Yeah, they've all been top tier. It'll be interesting to see, like, as the, what does 2021 hold? Are there, and this is a question for you because I don't know this answer as well. Are there people who you know are turning 16 in 2021 who will be first year CRL eligible that you're looking forward to?
To be honest, when we look at class of 2020 and class of 2019, if we want to talk about it like that, there's no one that really compares. In my opinion, there's no one that I'm sitting here at the edge of my seat. I'm like, oh, I'm finally gonna watch Mugi compete, right? Or I'm finally gonna watch Mohamed Light. The only person that it's more curiosity than anything else is a player by the name of Adriel. I don't know if you know him.
Yep.
I think he turns 16 mid June, July area. And he's been competing since he was 11,
How is he still not 16?
I have a joke where I'm always like, he's probably turning 12 this year again, because I feel like he's been competing for so long that he has to be 16 at this point. And we're finally gonna see him, and he does very well in the Revel Cups, and he's done historically very well. So I'm curious to see, once that he actually knows that he can compete, that it's his age and all this, if he will transcend to one of those top levels.
Yeah, that's an interesting question of how long can you stay at a high level too. I mean, part of what you're seeing with a lot of these players who are in the 2019 and 2020 classes is that they started playing the game when they were about 13, 14 and spent about 2 to 3 years getting amazing. And then they're turning pro at this wonderful apex, wonderful place where all these things come together. I'm wondering if, how long can you be as dedicated and be that good? Will Adriel's peak competitively come before he ages in to professional competition?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is right, because it's not like he was, starting to get good last year, right? Or the year before. He's been good for 3 years now, 4 years. And we've seen a decay in level at that 3-4 year mark, usually between players that play a lot of competitive. It's just the way it's worked. And the only thing I could say, which is kind of my curiosity with him, is the fact that he's known in his head that he's never been able to compete in CRL, right? Because of his age. So maybe with this new, like, all right, this year I'm finally old enough, he gets like a second win, right? Or he starts like practicing at another level, and we might have never even seen his highest level yet.
So that was an interesting sequence there on the right-hand side. JupiteKing able to hold on with the bomb tower on the back end. Inferno Tower causing some trouble so far for Jupiter, even though he currently is in the lead.
Yeah, he's in both the league and the lead.
Yes.
Definitely in the league. But this deck, as time goes by, is just impossible. He can't hold on. Jupiter, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of, okay, when will I lose more than if I can win.
Oh, and look at that Lumberjack on the left-hand side. Log tries to help. Not going to do much. Light gets it in the later end of the match, and it seemed like it was all Jupiter early on, but as you said, it wasn't about when, it wasn't about if, it was about when in that one.
Yeah. This deck, as time goes by, if you don't win it already before it gets into this late double elixir, almost triple elixir, you're gonna probably end up losing, especially versus someone like Mohamed Light, which I genuinely think is a contender to win this whole thing.
I mean, he's been a pick people have made a lot of times, and one of the big disappointments of CR World Finals for a lot of people was that Kicks didn't. They ended up kind of crumbling at the end and not making it to Worlds, and we didn't end up getting to see Light play at that level in the World Finals. He was a guy people expected to see in those Worlds, and certainly he's been a guy people are excited about overall throughout the year. And you look at this matchup, and you know the one thing I'm seeing here. Eric, and I almost called you Andrew. I'm so used to saying Andrew when I set up questions like this one. The one thing I'm seeing here is there's really nothing for that Inferno Dragon, right? You have ways to you can deal with the Ram Rider with the Bomb Tower, but there's nothing for the Inferno Dragon and pretty much nothing for the Magic Archer either.
Yeah, I think more of a hassle is the Magic Archer than the Inferno Dragon, because the Inferno Dragon doesn't get that much value on any of his troops either. But the problem with it is when you don't kill it and it starts getting close to your tower and you start panicking and you overspend, the rest of the deck becomes extremely dangerous, right? Because if then you have to put in a knight and archers just so it doesn't connect on your tower because it's been alive for so long, you wasted this elixir, and now he's going in on the other lane with absolutely everything.
So this matchup data from Royale API, obviously a very small sample size here, 38 games, not much to go off of. When you get to the other matchup, the 7 of 8 matchup, it's a bigger sample size. They both still give it to Hog EQ in this situation. Do you think that mostly is because people are playing that deck better than people who are playing the Ram Rider deck, or is it that Hog EQ has such an advantage in the early game that's giving it more wins?
I think it depends a lot on who's playing it. When you see pros playing it, I think, in my opinion, I could be wrong, I think the bridge spam deck will win. Just the fact that players that do play these decks generally that aren't all the pros or aren't the people experts in this type of deck don't understand that it's okay to take all this damage at the beginning. Just hold and don't lose the tower, and then you'll end up winning like Mohamed Light did. He absorbed damage where he had to. He knew that he was down, but he knew that in the long run he would win. And I think if everyone played it like that, those stats would be a little different.
So here we go, game number 2, JupiteKing with a game in hand. Jupiter was a guy who everyone, especially after No Tilt Worlds, you know, the help that he gave his country in that competition, and then the No Tilt League Special Edition on top of that, everyone was really thinking that JupiteKing was going to be the absolute world beater. And then in the fall split this season, it just didn't quite come together for Tribe. Do you have any thoughts on sort of Tribe's journey throughout 2021? Because, you know, if there's any team that was expected to be, obviously they went to World Finals, obviously they made top 4 in West, but it seems that even with their performance this season that they never quite reached the heights that were expected and hoped by Tribe Nation.
Yeah, you kind of said it perfectly. And it kind of goes to what you said about Jupiter. Everyone expected this world, you know, like domination. Jupiter, the next, you know, he's gonna fight Ruben for the gold spot in CRL West and all this. And the same thing happened with Tribe. Everyone expected Tribe to be that team, and they just fell short. To me, it was a disappointing season year everything. I know I'm not in the best place to talk, but as speaking of it from the outside, right? Let's take away the liquid for me for 1 second. I think the roster they built, I compare it to when we built the 2019 roster, right? Like all our players were at their best level. They were all striving for that world championship. We had a rookie that was Igor at this level and all that. And if we would have had that season, I would have been extremely disappointed, right? Same with Liquid. They would have probably been really sad. So yeah, you made worlds, but when you have a team like that, it's not made to make worlds, right? It's made to win worlds.
Yeah, and I guess it gets back to the question of what happened with Tribe Game, right? What do you have any thoughts on things that you guys discussed as a team over on Liquid when you were looking at Tribe Gaming? Like, what do you think put into Tribe being just not quite what was expected?
Yeah, I think it was, in my opinion, there wasn't really an identity with the team, right? Like, I didn't understand the roles of anyone. Like, it kind of just, it was always different. That you never had really any consistency. When you saw our team, for example, I can only compare with ours because I don't know the inners and the in and outs of every other team. You knew who was coming for what in 2019, right? You felt the identity of the team. You know, every person had their role. Here, I feel like there was never anything really established, right? One week you'll see Boofmac playing, the next you'll see Azealis, and then in the second season they went a little more static with only Boofmac playing. But I don't know, I just never felt like they were a full team, you know, always at their peak, at their best, everyone knowing their role.
That's an interesting point. And here we go. We're getting the triple elixir here. 18-12, 15-68 on the bottom, 17-22 and 11-74 on the top. At the moment, it is JupiteKing in the lead here in game number 2, running just a variation on Splash Yard, going with the Valkyrie in here. A slight shift overall.
Yeah, and I mean, we spoke about this a lot. Graveyard deck number 2. I'm a little surprised that he went with something that doesn't really line up well at all versus Graveyard. I don't know if he's talking with someone that suggested this deck. Hint. I think someone in the chat said he was helping. Bag, come on, man. If you're going coaching staff, we need you to step it up. No, but I mean, it's kind of expected from our side because we do watch a lot more than they're watching probably. They're training and doing all this stuff, but second match, man, you got to come with something that's good versus Graveyard.
Yeah, second match, Graveyard, delivery in, trying to hold on here. EQ trying to make room for the Royal Giant. And my feed just froze. How about yours, Eric?
Yeah, it's it's frozen in a half.
All right, there we go.
It's there.
And looks like Jupiter won it. All right.
It's like when you have cable TV and it goes out for a second and then your team won and you're like, oh, okay, I just watched the whole match for that.
Well, I
by
guess
the way, the chat when I'm messing with Bag's like a friend of mine for over 4 years now, so it's all in good fun.
Yeah. It's all. Let's see. Yeah, people talking about they reached playoffs of No Tilt League and CRL Spring. Dante's Inferno talking about this over in the YouTube chat. But yeah, I mean, look, but I don't think anyone for Tribe Gaming to go through the No Tilt League Special Edition, CRL West, Fall and Spring, and Worlds, and come away without a single piece of hardware. I think that my guess is that everyone over at Tribe Gaming considers that a loss rather than a win. I don't think they're really like celebrating that they made playoffs a bunch of times.
Did they get top 2 in any of them?
No, in none of them. They lost in semifinals to Space Station in the spring. They lost in semifinals to Pain? It was to Queso.
Pain
to Queso in
I
the
don't
fall.
even remember. Yeah.
No Tilt League Special Edition. I think they ended up the Jupiter and TNT carried them pretty far, but of course Queso came out on top there as well. So I don't think anyone at Tribe is going off for 2020 and going, this was the success that we had hoped for.
I mean, it kind of comes down to what we were saying, right? You're not made to make playoffs, you're made to win them. Same with Worlds. There's a difference in teams that are happy for playoffs and teams that playoffs, just making playoffs is not good enough. And I think Tribe, when we look at off-season moves and roster build and investment and everything, was the team that most, was that powerhouse, right? They had 4 players who were tier S players or higher.
Yeah, I mean, it was the biggest offseason, probably the biggest offseason roster moves of any team, right? Tribe completely wiped the slate clean and then came in with, 2 big pickups from the East in JupiteKing and TNT. And of course, it was Buffmac was the LeBron James of the 2020 offseason, right? Where he took his talents down to Dallas, or is it Austin? I don't know where. Austin,
I have no idea.
Wherever Tribe.
We'll go with Texas.
Yeah, took his talents down to Texas. That makes it easier, right? I think Tribe is located in Austin now that I think about it. Here we go into our next matchup, or game number 3. Didn't you... Wait. I am very confused. Let me go ahead.
Not the start you want. If he hasn't used arrows, it's not the start you want when you're playing bait and the first card they show is arrows. It's not the greatest. Well, let's see what else. Let's see what else he brings.
Oh, they have the. Oh, you know why I'm confused here as I'm looking at this, because the first crown is red because Mohammed's on the red side of the board. But notice that Jupiter's wearing red and Mohammed's wearing blue.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was so lost here going, wait, the crowns are all wrong. Is there a Portuguese live chat? I don't get English. Wallacey, go to Bruno or Deco. Because I don't know which one of them's doing it, but I know it's one of them.
I think Bruno's live on Twitch. On Bruno Clash. I know that's his Twitch. Not sure if he's on YouTube as well.
It says audio is delayed.
On my end?
Oh, you know what? No, it's our casting, I think, is on point. It's the game audio is delayed. Huh, guys, so that's not coming from us, guys. That is from the production. So sorry that the audio is delayed here. But
yeah.
Yikes, poison. Hold on. I wonder if did Mo already play poison?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing it.
Or was it a bad poison?
Yeah, I think it was more of I think he just didn't like the poison. I'm not liking this for Mo. I think I kind of jinxed him. Maybe it's not looking great. This matchup is not. Oh, he has Inferno at least. Okay. He's playing it with Inferno. The problem is, even with Inferno, once he keeps pressuring, it's gonna be GG in my opinion. As long as he should defend now, and he could counter, or just as long as he has a flying machine in his push, I don't see how Mo will be actually able to defend this.
Yeah, the defense with the barbs on the left-hand side can create a lot of pressure as well.
Yeah. All right.
That's
good push.
Yeah, decent amount of goblin of damage on the left-hand side here, and Inferno Dragon picked up on the right.
Yeah, the problem with that was that he put the lava down as soon as the barrel came in, and he didn't have enough for arrows at the moment, so he actually ate a lot. And then the Mega Minion went in front of the lava anyway, so he took the Mega Minion to the tower. The tower killed the Mega Minion. It couldn't kill the Inferno. It was just a bad sequence for Jupiter, and with all that bad sequence, he was still able to get all that damage.
Guys, this is not a recording. This is all live. Everything's happening live, Dante, in the YouTube chat. But we're dealing with a feed coming from a production company in Brazil as these games are being played live. So they're trying to send us all the different. They're trying to composite all the pieces, send it to us, and sometimes there are some weird idiosyncrasies. So they're trying to work that one out. 7:29.
It's 12:14 in the afternoon on the east. If there's any, concerns on recording, here you go. I recorded. We're all live.
Yeah, there we go. And
there's 27 people watching in game.
There we go. Hold on, let me go ahead. It is day 3 over there on Twitch. Sorry guys, I forgot to reset the description there. It's day 3. Congratulations. It's been fixed. And those of you on YouTube, why not subscribe to this channel so you make sure you don't miss any more of this competition, because we are here for 4 more days of Clash Royale, and then of course a lot of big stuff happening in 2021, and especially in January. Another massive tournament like this one coming in January as well. So Stick around.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. I think at the beginning I was a little worried for this year, but now with all these tournaments and actually watching this has been so much fun to watch, in my opinion. Oh, I think he outcycled. Oh no, if the barrel wasn't all in the front.
Oh,
that's unfortunate.
Boy, everything right up front. Trying to hold on here. You know, Mo's done a really good job, though, of some creative defenses. Here he goes, back to the barrel one more time. This final full surround. Arrows do pick it up nicely. Tombstone working on defense. Final 5 seconds. Poison in, not going to be enough here. A really valiant performance by Mo. You know, you really feel like that's one of those losses that you feel like he played, you know, despite a couple moments here or there, he played better than that loss, I think, would show.
Yeah, I think the decks really hurt him. I'm not talking about back this time. I mean, that was just a joke. Actually, just was unlucky in the position where he used them. I think if he would have used second on third and third on second, it would have been a different story. But it's part of this, right? You see Mo using decks that aren't really his decks, and if I think Mo had his specific cycle deck that he loves and would want to use, he could win matchups like this. But it's a little harder when you got to make variations.
Yeah, it does create some challenges here, and it's an interesting choice to go with this. You know, I'm trying to remember what Jupiter played in game number 1. But in game number 2, you know what I really liked here from Mo on the defensive side? We saw him do it, I believe, once or twice, was timing the skeleton barrel to pop on the lava pups on defense, right? Using that death damage to just, there was one where it felt like that was going to be tower down on the right-hand side, and as you guys saw, neither tower ended up falling. So some creative defense out of Mo, but overall a tough situation, couldn't play his way out of it. And coming up next, this will be a fun one, and this is one that I'm really interested to see. You know, Hajime has been an interesting character over 2020. Of course, during the No Tilt League Special Edition, sleeping through his matches twice was one of those things that I gave him a lot of trouble for. I gave him a lot of guff, if you will, for that one. But then, of course, being a part of the FAV gaming team, the FAV gaming team, FAV, whichever A you want to go with, the FAV, making their way into World Finals. And Hajime was put into some really, really tough situations during that World Finals.
Yeah, I think we've seen his best be so good, and we've seen his bad be like, you know, he leaves you wanting a little more. But his roof, or I don't know, you say
ceiling?
roof,
Yeah.
in his ceiling. Sorry, I still have like the Spanish translator in my head, going from Spanish to English, waking up still. His ceiling is so high. Like what we've seen him play well, it's incredible. And I think it's just a matter of it is his rookie season. You know, he's still getting the pro aspect of it. When you said he slept in and all this, a lot of these people are still kids, right?
Yeah.
And it's part of those growing pains. It's part of everything. And I think for a rookie season, it was a great season. Overall, he did have to play Ruben twice. It's not the most fun of matchups to have to play Ruben twice
At World Finals.
Yeah, but he held his own. I think he held his own.
Yeah, I mean, and that's more than you can say for many people when they play against Ruben, is that they held their own. And talking about someone who's capable of holding their own, you know, this is one of the most interesting stories, I think, of competitive Clash Royale has to be Airsurfer, right? Who has been so phenomenal in a lot of online events. Obviously, multiple-time global tournament winner. At one time, one of the top Expo players on the planet. And whose CRL journey has just been so weird. And after the spring, where Misfits looked really, really good, of course, you know, you might have had a role in Misfits having a bit more trouble there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Fall this time around.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But he's one of those guys who it feels like it's always been a difficulty trying to get him in the best situation to be at his absolute best as a player when it comes to CRL play, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Airsurfer, like you said, has had one of the weirdest careers in the fact that, like, I think everyone knows that he could be one of the best. You know, like every there's no doubt in anyone's mind that he could be on a world championship team. But every time he gets close to that, it kind of just all falls apart, right? Not only for him, but for his teams. He's had such a weird journey. We saw with Complexity where I think they had 4 matches of which they only had to win 1 to qualify for Worlds, and they lose all 4. And Airsurfer was playing at the best level throughout the season, and then it comes those 4 matches, and he has 3 matches which just like kind of leave you in shock.
Sure.
It's been so weird. You really said it perfectly. There's no other way to describe it.
You know, I kind of want to go back in time a little bit and wonder, you know, I don't know if how the season ends precisely if you have him there the entire season, but back to CRL NA Season 1. And, you know, for most of that season, it was Airsurfer, Firewolf, and Vulcan carrying the vast majority of that load during that season, and Airsurfer was still kind of evolving as a player is probably the best way to put it. He was a great Expo player, but was still a little bit predictable at that stage. Yeah. But I do wonder if maybe he had a little bit more support in terms of OP Sam getting there earlier in the season. If there's what the chances are that TSM might have performed even better than they did. And you know, you're familiar with TSM. You guys faced them in the first round of playoffs in that fall season. What are your thoughts on what TSM might have looked like had they had Sam that whole season, and what that might have been for Airsurfer going through that 2018?
I think Sam that season was so strong just because we were in a game where everyone was kind of playing meta, right? And no one understood 2v2 yet. 2v2 was so new, and Sam came in and just started building all these random 2v2 decks with Barb Huts and Hoggies and 3 Musk. And then he would use all the same style in 1v1 that no one was prepared for. So he was kind of a force in that Season 1. What I don't know is how much those decks would have paid off if it was a full season, right? I think it actually beneficial that he came in late. Obviously not beneficial in the fact that like, you always want to have 4 players, but he came with all the surprises for playoffs, right? He came for the last rounds were all full of surprises, and I think that helps. But I don't know. I don't see them championing in that season. I think 3rd place is right where I would put them with or without him there all season. I think Immortals in that moment were very, very good. Royal was just on another level.
Yeah.
And they understood 2v2 very well as well. Our Crap and RF were since day one of the best 2v2 pairs that you can have. So I think the result would have been the same. Maybe a second place, but I don't think they win.
All right, guys, I am going to try to reset some of the game stuff in the break between this game and next game and see if that fixes the audio issue that we're experiencing. So hopefully that'll work. So put up with it for the rest of this game, and then I'll try to do a reset here and see if that fixes the issue. And we'll try from there. Yeah, and the cannon cart pulled the RG. Yeah, that was a nice one there, Bill. Yeah, that's an interesting question, though. Interesting note about Sam, though, that and it's also similar to, you know, you can compare it a bit to Tommy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he showed up the day of our match. Like, we didn't even know he was there. We had no idea he was showing up.
I remember you were not happy about that.
I was not happy at all. I was not. We had a whole game plan, and out of nowhere, it's like, all right, here's Tommy. He has absolutely no analysis because he hasn't played competitive or anything. So good luck. that was the you got 5 minutes to prepare.
And then he won 11 games in a row, which was fun.
Yeah. Starting with us. It always starts with us. It's what I realized. Same thing with Pain, right? Pain this season switches to 2v2 versus us. They win 4 games in a row. Like, why do people have to try things versus Liquid? Let us, you know.
Well, I remember you were very annoyed in 2019 that the way that the schedule was, it 2019 fall split, the way the schedule was built, where SK, because they just kind of did the schedule in a circle. So SK played everybody the next match after you guys.
Oh yeah, people. That was terrible. Yeah,
you were really
SK was like the day after us, the exact day after us. They would play whoever we played before. So it was just like, all right, Liquid plays them. Let's see what decks they have, and then we'll play them after. I hated that.
Let's see. I am going to try to reload the clean feed here on my end, folks, and hopefully that will fix our sound issue. So let me go ahead and get that loaded back in here. Oh, wait, that shouldn't be. That's where we should be. There we go. And hopefully that clean feed will get fixed. Yeah, I remember. It is fun kind of being behind the scenes because I've had a chance to sort of I know there's all these little moments that maybe the public doesn't get to see about. One of my favorites was during the preseason meeting for CRL West in 2019, when Sam exclusively asked questions about whether they could have chairs on stage.
Yeah.
To League operations and to Supercell over and over again. And that was the only thing. Like every 2 minutes was a new question about chairs.
Yeah. I mean, if there was a camera crew rolling for all like the behind the scenes thing, there would be infinite content from CRL.
Yeah. It makes me wish that there was there was a CRL behind the scenes reality show for 2018 and 2019, because there was some fun stuff going on there.
Yeah. Fun and not so fun depending on what angle you're looking at it.
Yeah.
I think you witnessed that I fight for everything. I'm one of the more passionate people when it comes to every little detail and everything. You got to live it. You saw it firsthand for 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and it was.
I don't think people know that.
Talking about some of those behind the scenes things, Eric. One of the things I think that a lot of people are curious about overall is. I'm sure you've talked about it a little bit here and there, and I'm trying to get the clean feed up and working, guys. So still working on that one on my end. We're working with the stuff coming in from out of the country. One of the big stories of 2019 was Team Liquid's turnaround, not just from 2018 into 2019, but your brutal start where it looked like it was going to be even worse than 2018. And then I remember that there was in the actual OGN arena, you pulled Team Liquid together for a conversation. And from that moment on, it was a totally different Team Liquid. You guys went on this insane run. There were 5 games in a row where it was just Surge and Canario winning the whole match. Can you tell us a bit? I mean, that's a conversation I wish we had those behind-the-scenes cameras in there to look over your shoulder when you have you guys mic'd up. Can you tell us a bit about that conversation? Because that might be one of the most important conversations in Clash Royale history that only 4 people were involved in.
Yeah, I mean, when you speak about it, and I remember, I get the goosebumps of it, because it was it was one of those moments that I think shaped Liquid. Like the history of Liquid was changed after that, and everyone that was at the arena that day remembers it, right? It was more of the talk had nothing to do with what happened in the match after we lost. For people that don't know, we started off, I think, 1-4 or 2-4. 1 game away from being eliminated from even having a chance at playoffs. And I pulled everyone, the whole team. We were in the arena still, right outside where everyone can see us and all this. And it was mainly it was a meeting. I don't know how to explain this, but it was what the heck are we doing, right? What is going on where we are so focused and so nervous on our record and all this? We are the best players in the game, and we're thinking of ourselves like we're a last place team. So for the next 2 days, I told them not one of us is going to have a practice. Not one player here, not me. I am not going to set up a practice. Our problem is a mindset problem. And the second we realize how good we are as a team, that's when we're going to be able to reach our potential. We got in my car after that. I made sure if anyone had any, I was like, if anyone has any problems with anyone, this is the time to say what you don't like. We got everything aired out. And then I took them all to the beach. We spent the whole day at the beach. I prohibited them from using their phones, from playing any Clash, nothing. We were all just like, you know what? This isn't about Clash. We're not losing because we don't know how to play the game, right? There's no shot. So it was more of, let's get our mindset ready. Let's get back into it. Let's take every game as a 0-0. And everything just changed. We started, before every game, we started having this ritual where we would actually go to the beach for 5 minutes, breathe in, breathe out, phones in the car. Just mentality. It was all mentality. That's when it clicked for me. And,
And obviously the results paid off there, and paid off about as big as they can, winning a really amazing world championship. And yeah, guys, I see that the resolution just dipped. Give me 1 second here, and I will try to get that one fixed. And there you go. There's your resolution fix.
Production problems.
Yeah, well, I'm running this from a 10 by 10 foot. I'm running my end from a 10 by 10 foot house in a mediocre part of Austin. So once I'm back in my own digs, I'll have a bit more control over things. But
yeah, I mean, it's for everyone in chat. I didn't know how many things could go wrong until I started streaming. That's what like I real like I don't complain anymore. Whenever something goes wrong, I'm like, you know what? I don't complain anymore because I turn on, all I have to do when I turn on my stream is turn on my camera and OBS, and with doing that, I still have issues. So there's so many little things that can go wrong that you don't even think could go wrong. And to have a production from Brazil to you to then me being on here all in different places, it's hard.
Well, and then people think about, you know, the challenges that CRL had with remote production this year in particular, and knowing all the different moving pieces for CRL this year. And oh, we got a lot of damage left-hand side. Hajime putting the pressure on for Airsurfer, and one pup getting tanked for, and that pup might be the one that seals the deal here.
Yeah, I think this is I like the deck choice, and I like the matchup for Hajime. I think, in my opinion, chat could correct me, as this is going to be a fun part about casting this event. I've never had the wrath of the chat, right? Oh, you're wrong. I'm excited about it.
I have experienced the wrath of the chat tremendously, especially in 2018. You know, those first few weeks, I had a lot of the first advice that I was given when I got the job for CRL was don't read the chat. That actually came from back then Rumham, now known as Seth. His first advice was don't read the chat, don't read the comments. And yeah, you know, you can't help.
I want to see no one's going at me for this.
Oh, I think maybe you've earned some respect overall in Clash Royale throughout your years, Eric. I'm not entirely sure. You know, I guess being a world champion coach might give you a little bit of leeway here.
Yeah, you were saying, sorry to cut you off. I was just waiting for it, and no one came at me with it. Yeah, that first season was rough, and I was part of the problem. I'm not gonna lie, but you know.
Yeah, Cloud9 in particular wasn't my biggest fan that year. I don't think. But you know, it took a little while. But I think that we've talked about this a lot. I think that where Andrew and I, you know, obviously the switch to Andrew as my partner was a huge change for the broadcast team that year. And you know, there was the difference in response from the community was immediate when they paired myself and Andrew, and that's just about getting the right mix and the right chemistry. But I think that World Finals actually was what really kind of put us over in the end, because that 8-hour broadcast, I think that's where we kind of put our flag in Clash Royale and in CRL. So that was a big moment for us. And then the community grew with us, which is nice. And now we're at a point here where Andrew and I are going to be going into our fourth year of casting CRL, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and I think that first season, you guys got most of the bad part of it, also because there was just so much frustration from everything else, and you guys were the face. Like there was no one else that people could complain to in the chat, right? No one liked the vertical, so it was like, oh, let's take it out on the casters because they're there and we're in the chat. So like it was an accumulation of so many things, but you can see the progress every season has been so big that, I mean, I'm excited and I'm happy for you guys because I know how much effort and work you guys put into it. So
we're certainly passionate about it. That it's fun. It's the stories of CRL, the stories of Clash Royale are great ones, and that's why I cast these things outside of CRL as well, for that same reason. So it's pretty cool, and yeah, I'm glad that we were given enough time to get ourselves to the level I knew we could be at. So
yeah. It's not easy. It's not like a easy thing to learn, and especially get thrown into.
Oh, sure.
CRL, but you can tell that the work was there, and I am happy that the community didn't get their way, because if the community got their way during that first season, I don't think we would have seen Andrew and Rich, right? Everyone was pitchforks in hand. It's good to not listen sometimes.
Let's see. Dante's Inferno, there should be the correct sound. I mean, the sound seems synced to me, and I believe there's game sounds now, guys. So unless if someone in the stream is not hearing the game sounds, maybe I have the volume down too low, but that seems it seems like it's right on my side. So, and no, I can't spectate in game because we have to use the clean feed for this one, for all the other support stuff. So, if you want to spectate in game, get all these guys on your friends list. Go ahead and DM them. See, can I friend link, please?
Yeah, it's one of the questions I get when I'm on stream and like I'm watching my friends list, and I'll get a message from someone on Twitch like, how can I get all these players? Do I just message them? I'm like, you can, like, you can message them. I'm not gonna tell you not to, but I wish you luck on your journey.
What a zap from Airsurfer. Look at that. Nicely played, well timed. Cycle was perfect. Knew that was the only response, and that's a nice connection there for the American.
Yeah, this should be Airsurfer's game when you're looking at not only match but the way he's playing it, right? The cycle, he got the cycle down, he has it where he wants it to be. He always has something in rotation, so Airsurfer not only has a good match but also adjusted perfectly to it. That was good fireball. That was actually a great fireball. I don't know if I'm ahead of you.
Yeah, you're ahead of me by about a second and a half. I'm at 40 seconds, 39, 38, 37 seconds. So I don't know if you can like pause start real quick, and that would get us more in sync.
Yeah, it will.
It's one of the fun things about, one of the drawbacks of working with clean feed as opposed to working from in-game spectate.
Yeah. I realized when I said that and you hadn't said anything, I was like, all right, I'm definitely ahead.
And that's a fireball. There's another fireball. And 4:43 remaining. Bomb tower doesn't do much there against a fireball. Wall breakers in. And the EQ goes perfect. Airsurfer going to take the win here in game number 3. And the veteran moves on.
Yeah, that was it was complicated in the fact that he didn't really have anything for the goblin barrel, just zap, but he cycled so well on offense that it didn't really matter if he took that damage. So Airsurfer played that really well. I think if it was me and you, we probably would have lost, just because not knowing how to get our cycle in order perfectly, like he did. But he played it so well.
That's a big thing. Is cycle I think one of the less talked about aspects of good gameplay is cycle repair and understanding how to repair your cycle correctly. Is that, I mean, so, obviously as a coach, a lot of your coaching is more about, we just talked about mentality, getting players ready, keeping them on task, keeping them relaxed, things like that. But from a technical standpoint, right? How are there things that players can do? Is it just an instinct thing, or are there things players can do to get better, understand better the principles and execution of something like, people talk about elixir counting, but let's put that aside. Cycle repair, which can be such a huge factor as we just saw. Are there things that people should be thinking about, things they can do to get better at that, key elements to repairing a cycle that people maybe don't know about outside of the pro levels?
Yeah, I think, like you said, a lot of people focus a lot on elixir counting, but I think it's just as important to cycle count, if you want to call it that. You should always know what's in your opponent's hand, right? And if you need to take some damage to be able to get them in a cycle where they feel uncomfortable and you can actually get the advantage in cycle, it's worth it. I think that's an aspect of the game that a lot of semi-pros or people that are trying to get to that level aren't as comfortable with, or don't give it enough importance, or they say, oh, I started off with a bad cycle hand, that's why I lost. Yeah, but you have 3 minutes to fix that, right? And if you do have to take damage, then you have to take damage. But it's just as important to know always the cycle that your opponent has, so that you know when you can attack, not only elixir wise but card wise.
And here's an interesting matchup that I think you'll be excited to talk about a little bit. One of the biggest players, one of the biggest splashes of 2019, Igor, up against the Pride of Portugal, Vitor, who's part of a small list of very, very good Portuguese players who, maybe Vitor's helped put that country on the map a bit more in terms of international Clash Royale, both with their performance in No-Tilt Worlds and, of course, what he's done for Pain this season. Talk to me a little bit about this pairing here, Eric. I mean, this is obviously you were super hyped. You kept Igor on the team even throughout a season where he couldn't play with you guys the entire way through. Put him in World Finals for his debut, and of course it paid off very well. Obviously a lot of confidence there. And then Vitor, who's a guy who's kind of, Igor's a guy who has had a lot around him, whereas Vitor's a guy who's kind of come from this underrepresented and underviewed scene. Talk to me about these two players and how you view these two guys matching up.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you said, the two ends of the spectrum for pro players, right? Everyone expects everything out of Igor. He's meant to be a Ruben type of player. We've also put him on that because of what he did at Worlds. and Victor was like, all right, let's see what he's got. No one really expects that much. So the pressure is here on Igor, in my opinion. Not to disrespect Victor, but it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. When you watch any sport, you expect from the world champion, you expect certain things. What I do like about Victor is his deck choices, or his deck style, versus someone like Igor, right? He uses those RGs, he uses those Hoggies with Earthquake, or with Fireball. They match up well. So I think Igor cannot just go to his typical cycle mortar decks, or he will lose this matchup. That's the biggest part of this. And I think I saw a tweet from Igor the other day where he's having a little trouble with the deck choices, and finding decks that he's enjoying. So I'm kind of curious to see what he comes out with.
Yeah, I saw some of that too, and that Igor was talking about how he needs to focus less on trying to get good matchups and more on just playing stuff he can play well and going for outplay. And that's certainly one of those guys who can do it. Portugal's an interesting country when it comes to Clash Royale, Eric. You know, there's certain countries that have these massive reputations. They're embedded in the scene. Spain, Germany, Brazil, Mexico, China, Japan. Like, Portugal's never had that same kind of... It's a smaller country, but it has a pretty solid core group of players. Vitor, Lucas, and I was talking about the No-Till League, the No-Till Worlds roster that they put together. Jeebus, Derp. What is it that is it just? I've heard that a big part of it is that the Portuguese scene is kind of insular, and that's maybe why it hasn't been as well known on the international stage. What are your thoughts on the players out of Portugal and their impact or their ability to impact the scene overall?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Portugal as like a country for Clash, or the level, it's one of those countries where they don't have the star, right? And for the people in chat, when he says Lucas, it's not Lucas X Gamer, it's Lucas GSM.
Yeah.
Just so that you guys know, I'm sure someone would say, oh no, it's not him. But just to clarify, they don't have that star, right? But everyone has this certain level of gameplay where when you go to play a Worlds type of tournament, it's actually very valuable because you have all these sets that only one player can play in, or all this, and you have a certain base level skill set out of your whole team. So that's why they do good in team competitions, but that's why they don't really stand out in CRLs where you pick and choose the best players in the world, right? I think it is a little bit of a closed community. They're not really out there on YouTube and Twitch and all these things, and that's also why they don't get so much recognition.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, those other countries have languages that are spoken very, very broadly between Spanish, English, even German is spoken very broadly, whereas Portuguese is much more limited in terms of its global impact as a language specifically.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't help this scene when you're speaking Portuguese, and everyone, most of them, I can say from my interactions with them, speak a certain level either of English or Spanish. But when your main language isn't really a universal language, it's definitely hard. And I think that's also why there's such a big divide in East and West, right? When you speak about East players here, not a lot of people have as much knowledge, and it's just because there's no real way to connect the communities. And I think that could be happening the same with the Portuguese players.
So here we go. First 2 minutes of gameplay away. Things fairly even. Igor throws piggies to the left-hand side. Bomb tower in response. So bomb tower, NATO, log on defense for Vitor is the primary keys here. And Igor having to find some way to maybe a bit of an overspend that he has to go for on some of these defenses against the wall breakers.
Yeah, and it's funny because if I take away both the names and I ask you off screen who played what, this is the complete opposite, right?
Yeah.
You'd expect Hoggies Fireball out of Vitor and the minor deck out of Igor. So it seems like they both went for each other's archetype, and in this one it's paying off a lot better for Vitor.
And Vitor, Vitor's doing really well here. Yeah, this Magic Archer play out of Vitor. And it's almost as though the minor wall breakers push isn't the intended primary damage dealer, it's the Magic Archer behind.
Yeah, and there's no the problem is that there's no way of Igor to easily stop the wall breakers, right? He doesn't have any buildings. Ooh, Vitor, if that dies, I didn't like that overspend. I think he's getting away with it just because of how much damage he did. But I get nervous, right, when I see Vitor make those plays, just because of CRL, how it went, where he lost a bunch of them at the last second, trying to get like overzealous and take down the tower. But
Yeah.
it's just a matter of Igor not having any good defense versus something so cheap like wall breakers. And when you have to keep overspending on a 2 elixir card, you're gonna fall behind every time more and more.
And minor wall breakers is, talk about decks that pros make look so easy, and then you play and you realize how trash you are by comparison. Andrew and I were both talking a lot about playing this deck in particular. I played this one a lot. I love Magic Archer Tornado, and I thought, great, minor wall breakers, Magic Archer Tornado, and I can barely get anything done with this, especially when compared to the level that a guy like Vitor just put on.
Yeah, it's when we played, it's like, okay, I saw him do this. Let's put the miter here and the wall breakers here, and then no damage gets done, and and then you're like, all right, no, but I just put a bomb tower down and I'll defend this, and it doesn't really work like that.
No, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, I feel your pain, and I feel my own chat's pain watching me sometimes, but hey, we have fun with it,
Yeah, I mean, that's really all you can ask for sometimes, is that you end up having a good time with it. So nice win there to open things up for Vitor. And let's take a look at the chat here for a moment as we're between a couple of games. Obviously some 2.6 conversation. Overshot talking about how Brazilians speak Portuguese. Yes, we're aware, but Brazil and Portugal, smaller global population impact than Spanish, English, and German in terms of how often they're spoken. And also, like, it's about bleeding over, right? Like, what's the Venn diagram of languages being spoken, and so what languages kind of branch out. So here's an interesting question for you, and I think that I know the answer to this one, but I'm curious about your position on it. In this format, where in this duel format where certain cards are out, is there any room at all for 2.6 to show up in duel mode?
No shot. No shot, in my opinion, just because it carries so many cards that are key in decks, right? Like, at the end of the day, you want that fireball in your RG deck. You want those skellies. You want the musketeer. You want all. So to like spend it all in one deck, that the odds are like 70%, 80% chance you're gonna get a bad matchup. I mean, you can't. I'm not gonna complain, but as a player, like, no, don't do it.
Yeah, definitely as a player, don't do it. So here's the question then, because obviously that 2.6 has pretty much zero position in competitive Clash Royale. Why are there still so many players who are able to get pretty decent performance with it on ladder? I mean, still to this day able to have good ladder runs at 2.6.
Yeah, I think it's just the outlier of like you know the process so much, and like I think ladder decks are also very different to competitive decks, right? You play other one tricks.
Oh no! And the look on Vitor's face.
Yeah,
and this might be an immediate GG here. He's gonna try to play his way out, but oh lord.
No, this is even worse. He pulled the RG away from the hunter. No. This is.
Oh boy. Oh, what a big rip here. And
yeah, starting a game like that is the worst.
And Vitor struggled with nerves, right? And it wasn't really a problem he had before CRL, but he's talked a bit about that taking the step up to CRL has really sort of changed the way he feels the pressure. And yeah, you can see this is become kind of a familiar face here in the later stages of this 2020 run for Vitor. The frustrated look after a misclick or a misplay.
Yeah, that's why I was telling you on the match before, like when he was like such in a rush to get the tower down, I got kind of nervous because it is what you said. It happened a lot towards the end of the season. I know he had a great moment, especially again, yes, versus Liquid. I know, but he's had trouble closing and he's had trouble keeping his nerves down and just playing relaxed. And you see it in his face. Like you said, his facial expressions are very like evident, and he needs to just know that if I was his coach, what I would just make him understand is, and I tell all my players, just because you're playing the competitive match, nothing has changed, right? It's still the same exact game that you're playing. So the only thing that can make you play worse is your own head. Go and play the game that you know. Go and play the match that you know. You already know this match. So just relax. And I think that's his biggest issue. It's all in his head.
Yeah, some people are pressure guys, some people aren't. And that's kind of an interesting thing, too. You know, I started doing stand-up comedy in 2008. did thousands of shows over the years, performed for huge crowds. I was always fine just doing shows. If ever it was like an audition or I knew there was someone important watching, I always definitely felt the pressure way, way more in those moments than if it was just, it doesn't matter the size of the crowd, it just mattered who was in the crowd more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something that all these players are dealing with, right? Because I'm sure when they play a competition or they played something like SLO, like we spoke about before, the nerves aren't nearly as big as when everyone in CRL is watching you, right? Not only the crowd, but every single player that you look up to or learn from or everything, the coaches, everyone's watching you, and yeah, that's a big factor.
Well, didn't factor in for Igor here, who's got some pretty ice cold blood in his veins overall. Gets a pretty solid matchup overall, and a nice win here to even things up, send it to game number 3. A lot of people in the chat are asking questions about the 2019 World Finals because obviously, a pretty big moment overall in the history of the game. And we'll get to the biggest one in a minute because that's the one everyone has 1,000 questions about. But the more interesting question for me than what happened in the big 1 HP game is Vitor. Right? I mean, you talked about always, or not Vitor, is Igor. You talked about always knowing it. You talked about the confidence in him. But it's such a gamble from an outsider's perspective as a coach to take a guy who's never played live on stage, whose face people still don't even know yet, and then have that player go up for the first time ever, play live in front of 1,200 people with a world championship on the line. Talk to me a bit about the process of sort of onboarding Igor, getting him ready for that moment, and and did you have reservations? What were you feeling about that as you were getting ready for it?
Reservations, I can answer quickly. Absolutely none. He was on that team because we knew his level. And during the tryouts, the thing that I did with Igor was we had a small tryout. Before that, I asked him if he could train with Surge. Surge wanted to get a little better against Mortar. And Surge put on like a deck that was the hardest counter possible. And that was when we realized, okay, Igor still won this versus Surge. Surge is at one of his levels. Let's invite him to a tryout after the Boof Mag was leaving and all this. And after he beat everyone in the tryout, I did like something that I like to do. And I was like, okay, Igor, the only way you're getting on the team is if you win versus Diego, versus Canario, and versus Surge, all 3 of them in a row right now. If not, you're not on the team. And he went in there in 3-0, 3-1, 3-0. And I was like, all right, this guy just, nah, there's no nerves to this kid. Like he does not care. There is no situation that can make him uncomfortable. And when you combine that with just the level of play that we saw all season, while he wasn't there, we still were watching him. He was still practicing. Like everything about him, we knew. There was no shot I wasn't playing him. There was absolutely no shot.
So that's you. So here's a question for you. Was that you told him you have to beat all 3 of these guys or you're not in?
Oh, he was in.
He was in no matter what. That was you just wanted to see where he was. That was
just more of a mental test. See where he was. Yeah.
That's great. It's one of the things. Andrew and I talk a lot about the coaches. We talk about it during the show sometimes as well. But off screen, on our outside time, we talk about the coaching a lot. And there's a short list of guys who we really talk about from a coaching perspective. And you're certainly one of them. That's exact one of those moments that I love to hear about. So let's go ahead and jump in to our next one.
Yeah, there's a lot of things behind the scenes for well, mostly everything for coaches is behind the scenes, and that's why you guys, I think, know a lot more than the public knows when it comes to us, because you were watching us, right? You were watching the pre-games, the post-games, everything.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where I'm really curious about, or I really wish that we'd had sort of like a behind-the-scenes single camera following the team, like really getting in there on some of those conversations, because I don't think people, and you talk about teams that have had success and failure, I think if you look at every single successful team, the coaching has been a massive part of it, right? Like you look at the championship teams. So let's look at the coaches who've had championships.
Vitor's game crashed.
Vitor's game crashed, and he shows it to the screen. Unfortunately, we have no way to. I think that's outside of the rules. My imagination here is that unless Igor's granting a rematch over it. Oh, boy. Full crash here for Vitor. My guess is that unless Igor says, let's do a rematch, that's going to be just a big rip, unfortunately, for Vitor.
If it's up to Igor, I'm actually curious to see the decision. Like, I don't know what it'll be, but I'm definitely curious to see.
Yeah, I don't know if it's up to Igor or if it's just a League Ops conversation, because League Ops obviously is the one in charge of that one, and they might just say we don't grant rematches. So we'll see if Vitor has the ability to grant, or if Igor has the ability to grant that rematch or not. But yeah, that's a big rip for Vitor. He's just going to let that one play out. What is Igor playing? Something with minor and EQ, so that's a thing, I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, it's actually becoming more of a thing. The minor with EQ, and Vitor had a change of thought here on if he's letting it go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is playing Goblin Giant Sparky, Rage. So if there's any deck that can randomly win this fight after a disconnection, this could be it, because he can just load up everything, and we'll see.
Yeah.
If Igor's spending was a little bit off here.
And I think he kind of baited Igor, I'm not gonna lie, because Igor, you saw like that EQ on King Tower and all that, thinking that Vitor wasn't playing. He kind of he threw the little all right, you use this, might as well try putting the Sparky down. But no, it didn't work. There's just too much between the E-Wiz and the cage. There's just no shot.
Yeah, delivery to take those off the board too. Yeah, that's a rough one there for Vitor, unfortunately. So we'll see.
Delivery, sorry.
Yeah, let me go
Spanish
see if there's going to be any sort of. Well,
I think he loses this anyway. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
It's still, you never know, but with the delivery, the E-Wiz, and just how quickly he cycles, even with the Ice Spirit, it's not great.
Yeah, I'm checking with the guys. I don't know if Igor even has the ability to grant a rematch if he wants to. So I'm going to try to find that out, but I think that there might not even be the ability for him to give a rematch. So let me go ahead and jump into client. I'm not actually even, I don't even have the client open right now.
Yeah, I hope it's not on Igor, just because, in my opinion, when it's competitions like this, it puts the players in a weird position, right? Because like, if they don't give it, they get the hate. So they're kind of like socially pressured into giving it no matter what. I don't know. I hope it's not on Igor.
Yeah, I agree that it shouldn't be. And they're just saying, oh, Igor's already out of the clan, and they declared it for Igor. So
Igor is like, I'm not even making this decision. I'm leaving.
Yep. And that's the right call. That's the right call. You know, especially because the deck was exposed as well. There's a whole bunch of problems that come in with that. So no rematch here. Unfortunate turn of events for Vitor, but you know, when you're dealing with a remote production, no ability to like go, you know, if we're on set, then the moment that there's a lag issue, the player puts their phone down, steps away, puts their hands up, League Ops steps in, as a whole protocol for it. But when you're dealing with it from a distance like this, there's a bug. The problem's not with the internet. There's a bug on the iPad that made the whole game just crash. So yeah.
I mean, it was like that even in CRL though. We were responsible for our matches. It's not just this league. When you're playing remote, it's not there's no production, right? There's no refs. There's nothing. So you never want to think that players are going to do anything on purpose or, you know, any of this, but you just can't take the risk. And at the end of the day, it's part of online. No one likes it, but it's part of it. I'm sure it's happened to Igor before, and it's happened to almost every player.
Sure. And no, you can't rematch with different decks necessarily, guys, because again, we're playing duel mode. So you're limited with the cards you can choose because of duel mode. So you can't just rematch with different decks or same decks. Or like that becomes a really weird situation because of the overall mode that we're playing with, because you cannot repeat cards. So that does create some challenges. And yeah, those of you asking in the chat, here you go one more time. My co-caster today, Eric, aka EB7, coach of Team Liquid, and longtime member of the Clash Royale community. I mean, obviously, we all started as players in Clash Royale, Eric. But I don't know if people here really know your journey from first downloading Clash Royale to becoming a coach of a tier 1 a tier 1 esports organization within our league.
Yeah, actually, I have very weird journey compared to everyone else. The start is kind of like most people's. I downloaded it in the beta, and it actually wasn't because of me. It was because of my ex-girlfriend who played Clash of Clans, and she was like, this new game came out and you should download it. I was like, all right, I'll try it. I don't play any mobile games, so I tried that. Started loving it, and then I got good. I decided that I was going to make the first sort of competitive clan in game back then, so I messaged Galadon through email. I was like, look, I have an idea for a clan. We can make it competitive. Why don't we grab your name, your YouTube, and the full tag, which was like his clans, and announce like a competitive clan and see how many people we can get. And then that clan turned into FA tournament, which CMC and Chris and all these players joined. It was like the first competitive centered clan back in the day. And I just, you know, became very, very good friends with that group, as you know personally. Sure, you know, yeah. CMC and Chris are some of my best friends. We competed a little here and there. I stopped loving the game as much as a player side. It just wasn't for me. I had a lot of work. I had my some companies that I work with and all this that I just couldn't put in the time. So I actually quit Clash Royale. I quit and I went over to Clash of Clans, where they had a builder hall update just come out and all this. So I went to that. I ended up being #1 in that game. Flew out to Estonia and Finland. That Supercell had an event, so I got to participate in a Clash of Clans event before an actual Clash Royale.
So funny.
Yeah, it's so weird how it all happened. And then there was the what was the name of it? The event in Austin. I think it was actually in Austin.
Oh, it's South by Southwest.
Yeah, South by Southwest. The South by Southwest event, Chris and Colin actually texted me and they're like, look, we're going to Austin. You should fly out. At least we could hang out. So I flew out there, and Colin was on Immortals and Chris was on Nova, but they both rathered me help them with like the coaching and all this during the event, and they both placed top 4. So they were like, hey, by the way, Eric, I don't know if you're interested, but there's going to be this CRL. And it'd be cool if you come coach us. I was like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, we're serious. So that's how it all came to be.
What a strange path.
Yeah.
And talking about strange, this is our first time seeing Expo in the tournament so far. And out of what a strange choice of player to be playing at Javi Catorze, being the one to play Icepo or play Expo at all. I'm pretty sure that's the first time we've seen it this event.
Yeah, I mean, it just got nerfed, so it's probably not the best card to use right now. The life is from like 40 to 30 seconds. If you do get it to connect, it's a lot stronger, but probably not the best choice in archetype.
We'll get it to connect against this too.
Yeah, but what you said is the weirdest thing of everything to me, that Javi playing it. I don't think I've seen Javi play this ever.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of if I've ever even heard of Javi playing Expo.
I don't think I've ever seen him play Expo. I know he's best friends with Michifu, who plays this deck quite a lot, so maybe he's been influenced. But it's still weird to see. I did not expect it, and even less with this with the nerf to it. It's not really paying off either.
Yeah, you have to eat that just to set up here. Royal Giant should be back fairly quickly. And there you go, Royal Giant on the right-hand side. Ice was trying to slow it down enough. Has to contend with this Ghost. Yeah, this is brutal.
It's not possible because of the hit points nerf and all that. So like, even if you slow it down, you NATO it back, you saw between a couple hits and a log, it was over. So let's see if you can outside go. No. There's no way.
There's just so brutal. Yeah. It's so brutal. I mean, also like in this matchup in particular too, right? Like not just having Royal Giant, which doesn't hard counter Expo the same way, or does pre-Expo nerf doesn't hard counter Expo the same way as it has historically. But you throw that Electro Spirit in there as well for counter, and tries to go for the prediction on the skeletons, does Javi. And you know, he's a guy who's definitely gone for big time moves and big time moments. But that one just maybe Benzer one step ahead of him.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if that was like a big point where we could just tell about the nerf. He put a poison that was down a little bit even before the Expo, and a log, and that fisherman was able to tank all the way till its death. Before this nerf, that would have lived through the fisherman and got some hits on the tower. So it's too hard in my opinion right now. It's not that viable.
You know what is interesting? So I did a video with Ash. It's on CWA's channel right now. Yeah, just ring with the white flag right now. It's Javi. He knows it's over.
Yeah.
We did a video following who was playing Expo. Someone in the chat probably is an Ash fan and could tell us. But watching someone play Expo after the change. And most of the matchups were worse. I mean, Javi's just throwing rockets everywhere.
Yeah, that rocket was actually funny to see.
that made me laugh. But the one matchup that we kind of thought that it felt like it might have been better against, oddly enough, was against Lava. You know, we only saw 1 or 2 games with it, but it felt like it played better. It was Eragon, yeah. It was Eragon who was playing it. And Expo seemed worse in most places, but it did feel like it performed better against Lava, oddly enough.
Yeah, it's because when it connects, now that it connects, you're talking post nerf, right? Yeah. Because the fact is that it's stronger, right? So if it connects, you actually do a lot more damage per second. And versus lava decks, they usually tend to connect because you either have just a cage or just barbs, which will get fireballed, or they'll, you know, get nadoed to the other side. Or there's so many ways of the Expo to connect that the Xbox actually even stronger to lava. Versus lava decks, your Expo is never a defensive unit. It's mainly your Teslas and your spells and all this. So where it became weaker doesn't affect the matchup versus lava.
But everywhere else, it does.
Where it became stronger, it actually helps. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So interesting. Let's go take a look at the decks here from this matchup between Benzer and Javi. And Benzer's another guy who just hasn't. Why is this person? I'm getting the same phone number calling me 3 times in a row here, and I don't know why. I'll tell Mrs. Slayton to see if she can figure out what's going on with that.
Yeah.
You look at the matchup here between these. Here's what I was going to say. Talking about guys like Benzer. Benzer's another guy who should be championship material, who everyone expects to be championship material. Another guy who just hasn't quite done it all the way that's expected. He's known for playing a lot of Mortar, but almost, I don't know if I put him on the same level. Would you put him on the same level as Mortar, as Lapo and Igor?
I think there was a point in his career where you could, but it just fell off. I don't know. He gradually got worse with Mortar as time went on, and I don't know why. Like you said, this was a player that when he started off in CRL, everyone was like, okay, this guy we got to be careful with. He could be the next big deal. And I don't know, it just felt like every season it got worse for him. I don't know if it was he didn't like the competitive scene, or he couldn't understand himself with the coaches or the team aspect. There's people that just, they're not cut out or made to play in CRLs, right? You've seen their skill, it's there, but when it comes to competing live or in a team format, it's not for them. And he just never reached his potential. It's one of those players that could have made it, could have won worlds, could have done everything, but I don't know. And it's sad because he's a very, very good friend of mine. I got to meet him at WCG, and he's one of the nicest people that I've met through this game. And it's sad for me because I wanted to see him succeed.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Hold on, Eric. Will you cast for a moment here? Oh, thank you, Eliezer, for the hugs from Brazil. Someone's texting me saying that my dog got out, so I need to step away here for just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
See if I
no
can
worries.
figure
No worries. No worries. All right. Hey, chat. No, I'm just kidding. I'll try and cast this as best as I can. It's pretty good for Benzer in my opinion. Here he has a lot of defenses that he can use. Has zap for bats. No. This should be a 2-0 if he can hold off a little bit longer on the defenses here versus Javi. Javi does have a good quick cycle, but there's just way too many defenses in Benzer's hand to not be able to win this game. Lava from the back. He should set up a full push. I don't know if he already used all his other cards or why this is his support cards for this lava deck. The problem with him is he doesn't really have a great push just having minions, right? Usually when we see flying machines, baby dragons, and all this, you can feel a lot more pressure. And now he only has minions and mega minion. So the pressure is not great, and that's why he's having a hard time actually getting any damage. Dog got out. Yeah, dog got out. Eric, please read chat. Hi chat. Hi everybody. Sorry, I'm not a caster, so like this is first time for me. I kind of came to co-cast. I'm sorry if it's not up to par, up to what you guys like generally, but I am trying my best as well as in English. This does look like Javi is holding on. I would like to see what's gonna happen in triple. If it gets to triple, I don't know how the attacks are gonna be. He should lava. He's gonna lava in the back. Hopefully he has enough time to put in one good push. Sorry if I'm being a little impartial towards Benzer. I just kind of want to see him do good. He should have something in rotation for this. Ooh, that hit is not great. That is 300 damage that he didn't need. And this is it. This is where it all comes down. If that gets onto the loon, which it does, that was a great hunter. Hunter's gonna die though, and he needs to poison here. It's still gonna be a lot of damage. He probably has one more attempt. And for the next attempt, the biggest and most important part for Benzer is to get that loon on the other side of the lava so that the hunter is not on it. That's the only way that Javi can defend, is if that hunter gets directly onto the loon. He might even cycle 2 hunters here, which I'm pretty sure he will. If I'm Benzer, I'm just gonna focus on defense right now. Don't even worry about the rest. Ooh, this is a lot of damage. All right, well, it all comes down to this. Zap probably decides not to go zap. He goes arrows instead. I think I would have zapped just for purpose of speed onto those bats. A lot of damage plus the death damage. He still is in the position to lose though, because Javi does have minor poison. And ooh, the ice golem cage. Does he have cage in time? He does have cage in time. This match is actually really fun, but Javi's gonna take it. Just he absorbed way too much damage, Benzer.
And there you go. I am back. We have our dog. He was in someone else's backyard, and but very nicely that's why they called me 4 times in a row. Hey, Javi won, or Benzer won. What? Oh, that's the last one. Javi won. Cool. We're all tied up. Am I back? Eric, are you there? Chat, can you guys hear me? Okay, so we have me, but we lost Eric. So that's so weird. Let me go ahead and message him. Well, here we are. Here, I'll show you guys frozen Eric. There's Eric. Where'd he go? So well, I guess we'll sort that. Yeah, he dipped out because I left them all alone. I wonder if his internet died out. Who knows? But it's a nice. Hey, it's a nice freeze frame of Eric, right? Pretty good there. He got overwhelmed by obviously. Did Javi play a good game? I know he won, so that's good. He did so well casting. He sent it to the heaven space. Light, nice. Eric lost his dog. I hope not. Got my dog back though. So, yeah, everyone's saying Eric's dog got out. That's really funny. Yeah, my dog just he's always been an escape artist, but hasn't gone out in this place yet. So we got to figure out where he got out. And oh, there we go. We've lost him. So we'll go see if I can get him back. I'll message him in a minute here. Now you can look at the matchup from number 2. Let me see if I can figure out. Oh, he lost power. Let's see. Still, conversation is still open. When you're back. Lost power. That's what I was wondering, if he lost power when I saw that there was dark in the back there. Well, luckily he didn't lose power until right the moment I got back here, so that's excellent. And I wish I had seen the win for Javi. But instead, I'm here to see game number 3, and Benzer goes Mortar game 3. So going comfort game 3 here is Benzer Ridel, or Ridel. Ridel. Benzer is pretty easy to say. Don't worry, Eric is just in someone else's backyard. That's hilarious. Is this event official on Clash Royale Team? Is it on your channel only? This is on my channel and multiple channels in different languages. I am the official or only or whatever you want to call it English broadcast for this. It's on Koji-san's channel on Twitch for Spanish. It's on Bruno's channel for Portuguese. I think it's on Big Spin's channel for German. So a lot of different potential places to watch depending on how versatile your language skills are. And as long as you're here on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. There's the link in the chat. Hit me with those subs, brother. Hey, you're back. Let me see.
That was weird timing. As soon as you got back, I lost power for like a second.
It was perfect timing. If there's any time for you to lose your power, that was it.
Yeah. It definitely worked out. But that's one of the reasons I'm moving. This house just loses power out of nowhere.
Well, as you saw, Javi won game number 2, and Ram Rider. Javi goes Ram Rider. This is more Javi. I didn't watch any of game 2, obviously, so I don't have any context for that one. But Javi is one of the guys who does go to Ram Rider maybe a bit more than other players do.
Yeah. Sorry, I was getting back into the match. I didn't have the live feed open.
Sure. He's running Ram Rider and a bunch of legendaries, and Benzer is running Mortar Bait.
Yeah, it seems like Javi was like, I'm going to use all my friends' decks today. So he's using Wero's Bridge Spams and Michifu's Expos. So it looks like he went for Friends Day. But this deck is actually super strong. The Ram Rider style Bridge Spam decks right now are great decks. But he just faced something that you don't want to face. And Benzer showing what we asked, right? Is he still good with Mortar? Is he still one of the better players? And I think the clear answer is yes.
Yeah, very clearly has the skill set, so it should be a pretty easy finish here. Magic Archer trying to hold off high. Ram Rider to pick up the Mortar aggro. Javi's going to need to pick up one more miner if he has any hope here, and goes with the Lumberjack in the middle there to try to pick up the Mortar. Not going to help. And there you go. GG, well played.
GG.
Benzer takes the win.
Yeah. So
I think Javi lost power too.
I'm getting everything. Sorry, I'm getting everything closed. So I'm getting everything.
Do your thing. Get everything all set up, man. Lawler guy saying we think 2.6 is playable now. We actually had that conversation already, and the answer is a resounding no, except for some players on ladder. But the answer was a resounding no because, and just to do the 10,000 foot view there for you, Lawler guy, playing 2.6 inside of dual mode takes away too many cards that are necessary for other decks, for a deck that also has tons of bad matchups. So that was Eric's assessment, and I think he's pretty much right on the money with that one.
Yeah, I mean, unless your name is Lucas, Jack, or Yasu, I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, there's a definitely
not only your name, but you also play like them, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I actually did before I was doing back in the last 20-win challenge. I did a video with So Pro Bro doing 2.6, and he did a clean 20-win with it, which was pretty nice. So there are players out there who can do it, but the list of people who are truly at that level with 2.6 is very, very short, especially in the modern day.
Yeah. And more when you're playing, like we said, these type of competitions. I'm actually curious to see if we're going to see a lot more of this style with the duels. I didn't think I would like it at all, to be honest, when I heard that this was going to be like that. Because, you know, when you see All Stars, you're like, oh, I want them to play all their decks. But I've actually had a lot of fun. I don't know if the chats are liking it or not. I would like to see their feedback. But overall, I think we've seen so much variety in deck that we haven't seen. I think towards the end of CRL, it was like, okay, which graveyard are they going to use?
Yeah.
More than which deck. So it's actually very enjoyable for me as a spectator.
Yeah, I'm certainly digging it. And I'm wondering from the player standpoint, obviously, this is new, right? We are in the beginning of the development of competitive duel mode. Right? And I think that as players go on, I'm curious about, much like how 2v2, when we first started 2v2, it was double golem, double lava. And 2v2 in 2018 was, frankly, mostly pretty boring.
It was so bad.
But 2v2 as time went on, I don't know your opinion, 2v2 became maybe my preferred game mode in CRL in some ways, as we got later along, seeing the highest level of 2v2 being played, the variety index, teamwork, things like with Pain, where Lucas and Wallace, where, Wallace hits the log and then Lucas hits the ice golem to get a Magic Archer King Tower activation. Stuff like that was really cool. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was gonna agree with you. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but it's just you hit it perfectly. When I was a coach of Cloud9, we would sit at the house and be like, I hate 2v2. I hate 2v2. We don't even want to practice this set. Just put on 2 golems or two RG giant skelly and go for it. And now ending CRL teams, I could say my favorite set is 2v2, without a doubt.
That's if there is one thing that we'll be hoping makes a comeback some way in 2021 competitively, it'll be 2v2 for sure, because at the highest level it's beautiful. And shout out Clash Royale Esports in the chat right now saying that they're liking this format. And that's my question, right? We saw 2v2 evolve from being a why is this here game mode in 2018 to being honestly the most competitive and the most compelling version of Clash Royale near the end, where all the aspects together made it so great to watch. What I'm wondering is how we see the meta and deck choices and builds of this evolve, especially from an analysis and preparation standpoint, right? When we get into CR, get into the high-level matches, you thinking about thinking of how, chess players talk about lines and they memorize different openings and lines in the way that this will develop and that will develop. Will we see that sort of in deck building, where someone goes, okay, I'm planning to open with this deck against this player, and I think it's good for these reasons. It gives me these 6 different options to go on in Game 2 and Game 3, depending on what they play, and that high-level preparation that might advance and evolve the meta in ways we'd never anticipated.
Absolutely, and I think if there were to still be coaches and all this, it's going to be a lot more of what can I play now, and then depending on what he uses, let's knock out, right? You have a whole Google sheet or whatever you want to have. You have all his most used decks, and then you have to knock out all the decks quickly while your player is playing and see which decks are left from the other person, and then compare to your deck and see, all right, this is probably the highest percentage of getting a good matchup versus this, and you keep eliminating based on cards that have been used, right? So it'll be a lot more pre-game preparation than anything, in my opinion. But what I do want to say is, for this format to work, obviously, I think the game has to be in a great state as it's getting there right now. I love these balance changes. I absolutely love them. It's one of my favorite, because you need the most amount of viable cards, right, for this to be a very fun format.
I think that's a good point. You need a wide variety of viability, for sure.
Yeah. So the only thing I will say that I learned my lesson through 3 years, and I will like to throw some knowledge to chat, is don't be so skeptical on new formats. I was on the 2v2. I was like, this will never work. It ended up being my favorite. Then when they put the triple elixir in right before our world finals, I was like, I can't believe this. This is a joke. And it always ends up being great. So I've learned, you know what, let's enjoy it. And if this is something that comes into the future, I'm going to be excited, because it ends up, they usually make the right decisions, right? I have no idea if it is, if it's not. I love 1v1 either way, but let's enjoy the new formats, and if this happens to be the way to go, I'm sure it'll end up being a great choice.
Yeah, I think so too. And some questions. Delta saying what makes 2v2 much better from a semi-analyst standpoint is the control over matchup and skill level. In 2v2, the deck and the 1 ban per team is such a huge difference in deck matchup. Yeah, so you have some more control over matchup for sure. The teamwork, obviously, I think is brilliant for 2v2. Some people don't. I think that one of the hard parts for 2v2, and some people I see in the Twitch chat saying that they really don't like 2v2, is that they never got to experience at a truly competitive level, and that's one of the challenges of 2v2 and CRL is, while it is it became one of the beautiful game, really in a lot of ways. Yeah. Just the community in general never really getting the opportunity to play it that same way, I think may have been a challenge for it in terms of the popularity beyond the really hardcore competitive players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that there was no real access to it at a high level, right? Because you can play the ladder, but it's not the same. If you can have like some challenges or some top actual ladder, and people could have understood all the ins and outs of it and how hard it is and all this, I think there would have been a lot more enjoyment and support watching it. But to add to your thing, not only is it the matchups and all this that's more controllable, it's always so much more fun to win with a teammate, right? Like it's just the way it is. It's so much more fun to win the set and be able to turn to someone and give them a high five or a hug or whatever and be like, yeah, we just did it. Like, great set. It's as a team and as a competitor and all that, it's a lot cooler. Like you go to your friend's house that both of you love Clash, and being able to play together instead of against each other is also fun.
Yeah, it truly made it a team event.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a big part of why 2v2 was such a huge part of CRL the last few years, was because it truly made it a team event. And this one, I think, is getting away from Pompeyo here. You understand the Goblin Giant Sparky Rage choice because you save so many big spells for the later matches, but just got a tough situation here against Samuel.
Yeah. Like you said, in this type of format, it's not a bad deck at all. Most cards don't overlap. It's not like the Goblin Giant is the only real card that you can say overlaps is probably the Musketeer and the Bats. I genuinely wouldn't have used Bats here. I would have probably gone with Minions just so I could save the Bats. I don't think it'll make that big of a difference regardless of the matchup. And you can save the Bats for, I mean, Pompeyo's loon decks and all this stuff, but it's his choice, and I'm sure he has a plan. He always has a plan. He's the captain.
Yeah, that's a plan is certainly, and curious to see. Actually, this is interesting looking at what Samuel played here in game number 1. Do you think Samuel was trying to snipe the loon deck in game 1?
Yeah, probably. That's definitely a great matchup versus the loon deck, and it worked out. I mean, I'm sure he knows it's probably going to come at some point, but I'd be surprised if at least one more of Samuel's decks doesn't have a good matchup versus the loon.
Yeah, we'll find that out fairly soon. Let's see, turn into chat here for a couple of questions. Delta saying, hi, 2v2 also highlights mechanical skill much more than typical 1v1 gameplay, practicing with teammate, etc. Yeah, that's a possibility.
I mean, the mechanical skill is kind of on the same level, I think, in my opinion. I've practiced a lot of 2v2 as well with my teams. The thing is that you're not only depending on yours, it's like you're adding another element when it comes to communication, right? They depend on your communication, on knowing each other's, and you don't only watch your elixir, but you got to be watching your teammates' elixir and know when to play your cards or when he should be playing. It's a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. I remember sometimes seeing a player look over at their opponent's phone when they were playing live, or playing on the stage at OGN. During the 2019 season, watching them look over and be like, how much elixir do you have? Let me look at your hand really quick. So certainly some interesting teammate moments there. Let's go ahead and jump into our next one between Samuel and Pompeyo. And this is an interesting matchup between these two, Eric, because you have the one-time greatest ladder player on the planet, and who's certainly making an argument for getting back at that #1 spot with his most recent top finish, against the overall, in terms of like official finishes at least, best finisher on ladder ever, with Samuel. I mean, it's an argument where does Igor's one more #1 spot beat out Samuel's over 30 top 10 finishes?
Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of unofficial, like you said, placements and all this, but I think mainly we can just go to the fact that we have 2 out of the top 4 best ladder players of all time playing each other.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the only options are Igor, Samuel. Well, the thing is that Wero is kind of there, but like people that have played competitive, right? People that would actually be in this competition. Anavan, Pompeyo, Igor, and Samuel are probably the top 4, and you have 2 of them facing off right now.
Question from Problematic in the Twitch chat. I have a question for Eric. In the normal 1v1s, how much do you think having an analyst on both sides mitigates the matchup challenges? And obviously in a single game 1v1, that becomes much harder. So let's kind of make that a 2-part question there for you, Eric. How much do you think an analyst helps in the previous format of the game with just regular 1v1 as we've had for a best of 3 so in the past few years, versus how much you think an analyst might help with this new format that we're experimenting with today?
I think an analyst will help more now than he did before. It's harder with the previous format just because on top of the fact that you can play anything, you can repeat anything, you can copy anything. There's no bans, right? So there's nowhere to actually narrow down where you think the player might go unless he plays something comfort or something that's obvious in his deck pool. But when you go to this format, it goes a little bit to what I was saying before, right? You can have a whole spreadsheet with different combinations of decks with, I think players are going to have a little bit more tendencies of where they're going to head once certain cards are not able to be used anymore. Or at least you can have a deck pool of all the decks that are available with these cards banned, right? Or with these cards already used. So an analyst is a lot more key now, in my opinion, in knowing which deck to choose third, which deck to choose second, just based on cards eliminated.
So this is an interesting situation here. This time the clone doesn't miss. We had a missed clone there, as I asked your first question.
Yeah.
That the Ewiz comes in and picks up the clone on the second time. Interesting situation here where tons of counters to the Royal Giant. Fireball's been doing a good job so far, but you fireball the barbs and then other big DPS pieces right behind. Pompeyo kind of going a bit tricky with his deck choices here in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I don't love it just because I think Pompeyo could win with his style decks. I don't think he needs to go this crazy. It might pay off. I'm not sure. I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think he had great clones at the beginning, me being, a clone specialist. No, I'm just joking, but I do play Lava Clone on ladder because I'm that guy. Yes, I'm the guy that you queue in and you play Lava Clone and you say, who plays Lava Clone nowadays? That's me. It's all about one good clone, so you're never out of it. That Ewiz was pretty not the greatest, but he has way too many things. Like we spoke about before, the Electro Spirit's actually great against Skelly Barrels and cycling. Yeah,
Giant Skeleton, yeah, in the back corner and triple. And
this is it. This is it. Yeah. He should clone. Yeah, he's gonna clone the right, or he should at least.
I think you're ahead. I think you're ahead by a little bit here.
Oh, sorry.
45 seconds left. And now we're about to. There's the clone on the left-hand side. Skeleton Barrel goes to the right. 40 seconds left. Skeleton Barrel connects with the cannon cart as well on the right-hand side. That's a lot of cannon cart damage, and just like that, the lead shifts. But again, other than the arrows, no way to get directly on tower here for Pompeyo. Doesn't matter. Left-hand tower falls, and that's a nice win.
Did that bomb hit?
I guess it did.
I thought that was out of. I could have sworn that was out of. I'm watching it now on Twitch because it's behind.
Yeah.
And wow, I thought that was out of range.
That the death bomb is so yeah, 2 weird decks for Pompeyo. Do you think he's gonna go Pompeyo deck in game number 3? It's one of those weird things about the skeleton barrel, the skeleton bomb, that it almost always you can't really tell unless it's like right on the tower. You're like, is that there? Is that not there? And we've made that call. Same thing with the balloon. Sometimes you're like, just by it's this weird half tile area that you can't figure it out.
Yeah, there's always that little, especially when you're playing, right? You're like, you're kind of holding your breath until that little timer ends up and you're praying that it doesn't hit. Just because, like you said, that half tile where you're not 100% sure. I don't even think the players are 100% sure some of the times. But that was the only way I think he wins that. If that death damage hits, because that was it. That was his whole push and that was the last of it. He has no damage to take that last 315 HP that he had on tower. But it works. It worked.
It worked. Hey, if it works, it works. That's the most important thing, right? Is do you actually get the win? And right now we're all tied up 1-1. Samuel, of course, we talked about it before, being one of the all-time ladder greats, and Pompeyo. It's nice to see Pompeyo get back to being number 1 on ladder, right? You know, CRL has been an up and down experience for Pompeyo overall. Of course, he and your friend and former teammate Diego B turned into a pretty nasty 2v2 duo this season, which was really fun to watch. I really enjoyed that a lot. But you know, CRL's been kind of up and down, and then you know, one of the greatest accounts in Clash Royale history. Unfortunately, had to go away, and Pompeyo.
Yeah.
But that's the resilience of Pompeyo, right? Had to start from scratch again, rebuild an account, and now he's back on top. What are your thoughts on the prospects for Pompeyo in 2021?
I love the way he did everything, right? And I think even though his teams historically in CRL never had great placements, he's always been what his team needed him to be, right? His first season with Cream, he had a great debut season in my opinion. He had a great King of the Hill. I think he was actually one of the best in the league. He had never played 2v2. Speaking of that,
Yep.
That's one way to start the match.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pompeyo goes full Pompeyo, calls the good game on Samuel with over 2 minutes left in the match. And that, the moment you saw him fireball the Magic Archer, you're like, you see there's pigs there, right? But Pompeyo knows this. I mean, he knows this deck perfectly. He's played. That's one thing about having a one-trick deck, as long as you have versatility to back it up in other places, is that he knows this matchup way better than Bassotto does, because Samuel hasn't played this matchup 100 times, and Pompeyo has.
Yeah, and on top of that, having the one-trick deck, you force your opponent to have decks that are good against yours, but he never knows when you're gonna play it, right? So like, he's playing your game the whole time without him even kind of like, you know, really knowing he's doing that. But you're kind of always in control, and now you can see that Bassotto's not really comfortable with this. He's not. It wasn't the deck that he wanted for this matchup. It's probably the only deck he had where he was like, I hope I don't play Pompeyo deck with this one. And that was his third deck.
Oh boy. Yeah, 2 towers down. If we had Fantasy Royale for the All-Stars event, Pompeyo just took a nice big chunk out, and it all started with that beautiful opening push. I wonder if someone on Twitch can go and clip that opening push from Pompeyo, because that's one of, I'd say, kind of a key moment overall from today's gameplay. Just good opportunity there to take advantage of the sort of the way that Samuel built the opening moments, and this is Pompeyoing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the point where we were talking about Pompeyo before, when his account, where that account got, you know, put into history, what the greatest part about everything, in my opinion, was that not only did he make an account from zero and start all over again, but he beat every ladder record for every level on his way back. So level 9, he has the record, 10, 11, 12, and then he finally has his max account and he goes and he wins the ladder season. So I don't know, that was awesome. Yeah, especially because it's him.
Especially because it's him, you know, it being Pompeyo doing that is certainly something else attached to all of that. But also there's, this would be a nice little 3 crown there for Pompeyo to get the win here over Samuel. Very, very nicely played. There's a mentality thing that I think is really good for Pompeyo, right? And the sort of the grit to come back. And you talk about some of these players as they're preparing, you know, as we're moving into this shift in 2021, there's a grit there, there's an adaptability there. And Pompeyo's attitude, after taking such a huge setback, he took a look at it, he evaluated it, and he said, okay. And he said, it is what it is. I'll take these lumps as I have to take them, and I'm going to move forward. And I think that's the most impressive thing, is the moving forward and kind of resetting and not letting that define his experience with the game or himself as a player, and moving on. So I'm really excited for Pompeyo in 2021, and obviously a format that rewards top ladder play, certainly something that's good for Pompeyo.
Yeah, I mean, ladder, when he hears the word ladder, it's definitely a happy word for him when it comes to CRL and ladder. But I think the most important thing is what you said, the fact that he will never give up no matter what. If the format's not what he likes, or if the format's not this, he understands, like, it is what it is, I'm going to keep going. And when we have such a big change in format from one year to another, mentalities like that are usually the ones that, you know, break out and get ahead of everyone else, especially in the early stages, because instead of worrying about things that he can't control, we've already seen it. He's just going to get in there, work, and, you know, be the best he can be. And 2021 looks good for him. I'm excited.
And I've seen some players start talking about getting on their, you know, a lot of players who are getting on their grand challenge grind for this next, to get themselves ready and prepared for 2021 as well. So You know, if you're interested in competing in 2021, the interesting part about CRL for this next year is it's open to everybody. So go and get your account ready, get your ladder grind on, or get your grand challenge grind on, and get ready to come out and prove your worth, prove your mettle.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have all your, I'm not sure how it's gonna work, the ladder and all that, but not only is the grand challenge a good way to practice, and we have the I think the global tournament is up now as well, but you can get some cards to start maxing out your decks in case it is ladder based full max, right? So you're getting good practice and you're maxing out your decks.
So I think we are moving to our last match of the day, folks. I think we've reached that point here. It's going to be Schwarzen and iAmJP. Schwarzen, part of the younger class of German players. And, of course, iAmJP, the golden-haired golden boy from Barcelona, Spain, defending now the current reigning defending world champion in Clash Royale League. And, you know, you talk about big-time moments and big-time performances. His win over OP Sam with, you know, you have Team Queso facing not one, not two, but 3 match, elimination matches in a row. Four match points in a row before getting to that final game. And I think that, you know, JP's been defined a lot in his career by up and down performances, by big moments and then big throws. But I think that now that might change, where he's in the most important one. He came through and got a big time win for Team Queso.
Yeah, I think you said it well when you said, like, I think he started his career when you and was Andrew there already? Was you and Andrew with the golden hair golden boy? Or was still,
that was
okay.
I'm the nickname guy, the mad scientist, the golden hair, all those different things.
Okay, yeah, that all started with his great career start, right? The sweeps and all this in CRL EU, and then he had that little downfall, and then he went to Asia, another little downfall. He started off well, but when you seal CRL teams with a world championship win in such an important set, I don't think anything else matters, right? And your confidence is going to be at an all-time high. You're a world champion. You won your set when your team most needed it. So I think it's all up from here.
Yeah. So we'll see what he does for 2021. Although, you know, the question is, you know, something that you contended with, and I'm not going to put you on the hot seat here for it too much, but, you know, after putting so much effort in 2020 and going and winning the world championship, you know, I wonder where a lot of the Team Queso players go in 2021, right? You kind of expect that Ruben is just going to keep being Ruben. That's one of those things you expect. I don't know if I'm wrong or right in that, but, like, I just don't see. I think Ruben's going to go and try to win a solo world championship now this year, because why wouldn't he?
I think he will, yeah.
But I'm curious about the rest of the players from Team Queso and sort of what their Clash Royale journey looks like moving forward after winning a world championship.
Yeah, I think if I had to put my money anywhere on where that next world championship is going, it's going back to Queso, but in Ruben's hands. I don't think, from what I saw, I don't know what the format will be this year, but anything 1v1, I don't want to play or go against Ruben.
Yeah, right.
So I think on his end, we're gonna see the same thing we just saw. I think JP is someone that wants to, you know, because even though he did win the world championship, we all talk about Ruben.
Sure.
Yeah, we talk about Team Queso, but it's just what Ruben did is on another level. And I think this could be a year where JP is like, look, I know he's amazing, but I'm amazing too. Let me show you in a 1v1 format. The other side of Queso, I'm not too sure, because Kuchi and Benny were 2v2 specialists for that team. But I think JP and Ruben are going to have a pretty strong 2021.
More small. I'm liking these small pushes out of JP on the left-hand side, just little cheap pressure pushes, and you're seeing how much Schwarzen's having to absorb a lot of damage on that side and not get much out of it in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and delivery is actually great versus Lava. So I actually like this for JP. He doesn't have that big spell that most people would want to have versus Lava at his disposal right now, but there's so many good defenses with that cage, with the E-Wiz, with the Inferno, that I think it's a matter of time before JP takes this. He just needs to keep those little cycle pushes that we've already seen him do. He's very good at that. He's a Hog Earthquake player, so he understands that even one little hit or a little bit of spell damage here and there is enough to win matches, and I think he'll close it out.
So changing lanes right now is Schwarzen going into the Inferno on the opposite side.
It's smart.
Yeah, this is really smart, and he is loaded up here. So now the big question is, how does JP deal with all this in one lane? Barbs go through, take care of the Inferno Tower, all over that Princess Tower, despite delivery coming in. Delivery not available for the Skeletons, so the Skeletons come in behind. And look at this, Schwarzen calling good game right now.
Yeah, that was so smart.
Can JP hold on?
Yeah.
Nope.
No, he can't. There's no way. That was such a good play with the Barbs in front. Bought him enough time to then get the miner behind. He played that perfectly. He played that so well. It's not even JP's fault because he had to pressure that lane. That was great push from Schwarzen.
Yeah, that was really, really nice work from Schwarzen, who, you know, again, we're talking about the trials and tribulations of Misfits, which has, you know, they've been well documented. The challenges that Misfits have had in CRL through all 5 seasons of competitive play. And, you know, I think there were a lot of higher expectations for Misfits in this fall split. Of course, after having such a great performance in the spring, of course, as we mentioned before, losing a key role player in Razor going over to join you guys at Team Liquid. But, you know, it kind of feels like maybe Schwarzen was thrown into a rough situation, especially being asked to play 2v2 early on in that season.
Yeah, I think the plan that they started with was completely different with what they ended with. And if they would have started with their end result plan, they actually might have had a pretty good season. If they would have had Airsurfer and Wings start that 2v2, because I actually really like the way they played together. I just think it was a little too late into the season, and given Schwarzen enough time to adapt into a CRL 1v1 role, that team might have actually done very well. I think he goes on to beat Javi and a couple other players in a 1v1 set. So he definitely had the potential to win enough sets. It just wasn't, I think it wasn't planned to be like that. It was supposed to be Bob and Schwarzen, this new 2v2 duo, and then when that didn't work out, they had to switch, and it was a little bit of a mess for Misfits.
Yeah, it was certainly one of those challenges, right? I think that they expected a different result with Bob and Schwarzen in 2v2 for sure, and Bob was brought in specifically as a 2v2 specialist, and that didn't work out. And when that doesn't work out, that can change. That, you know, that can definitely throw a big time wrench in the engine. So yeah, Misfits had a rough go of it. Misfits had kind of a rough go of it for a long time, right? You're obviously very, very, you know, Wings very well, having coached him with Cloud9. And it really felt like the team they put together in the spring of 2020 was finally the right combination for Wings, right? You had really positive people around him. You had a really good, you know, situation where he could just go in and play King of the Hill and not worry about anything else. You know, Wings is one of the all-time great Grand Challenge winners, one of the all-time great King of the Hill winners. What do you think is the key to maximizing Wings on a team? Is that what Misfits did in the spring? And again, talking about players, what we see from them next year, what do you, like, you know, Wings has announced his retirement. Do you think it sticks? Do you think we see Wings come out for some of this CRL 2021 action?
No, if I had to really be honest with myself, and even though I would want to see him compete, I'm pretty sure Wings is done. He's someone that once he makes a decision, it's pretty much set in stone. He's a very stubborn person in a way that kind of we all are. But I was able to coach him, and I think the key to Wings is he needs to be motivated, right? He needs to feel that his team can actually win a championship for him to be performing at the best level. And I think that's what he felt in spring. And I think that's why we saw the dip in fall, where he just didn't, the team didn't really give off the same vibes. And he's someone that feeds off of that, right? Like, oh, my team can win. Let's go. Let's kill it. When he's in practice mode, to the most practice mode that he can be, he'll train 10, 12, 14 hours a day. You know, he's won more grand challenges, I think, than anyone. He has 10 billion cards won, for all we know. But he depends a lot on the success of his team. If his team's doing good, he's doing great. If his team's not doing good, he kind of gets a little down on himself.
So Balloon here for JP, and a little wow from him after the insanely aggressive graveyard to open for Schwarzen. course, that graveyard might come back and bite him. A lot of damage opposite direction and 264. So that right-hand tower in a lot of trouble here for the German against iAmJP.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the nickname, the golden-haired golden boy from Barcelona, Spain. That's up there on my list. I think that's number 2 or 3 on my favorite list of the nicknames that we coined. But my favorite one, and I think it's probably because it was so well embraced by SK Gaming, is OP Sam, the Mad Scientist. I mean, everyone just seemed to. Sometimes they stick to them as they don't, and that one is the one that I think I'm the most proud of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that one everyone kind of kept, and like even he's embraced it, right? With JP, it's kind of like it's stuck with the English version of the stream and the English side of the community, but never really kept through from him or Queso or any of his teams. So I understand where you're coming from. SK, and even Sam kind of got into the role of that nickname that you gave.
Yeah, the Mad Scientist thing. Although I will say this, thanks to JP for continuing to dye his hair blonde, because that certainly helped.
Yeah.
So here we go, six-man split.
Yeah, no, this is just way too much damage at the beginning, I think. Let's see. He could turn it around. Look at the matchup.
Well, that's what this has to happen, though, is this matchup for JP. I like this matchup through the first 3 minutes of gameplay. I like this matchup for JP. It's when you get in the triple where I start to think it swings towards Schwarzen.
Yeah, the thing also with Schwarzen is he's trying to get, he's been getting a little too over aggressive, in my opinion. He wants to get the graveyards down, but he's just not ready to get them down. You know, like he's putting them down to the point where once he actually has enough for the poison, there's only 1 or 2 seconds left on the graveyard, and then he kills the archers and the graveyard doesn't really do anything. He got a little overexcited, or he's I don't know, nerves, but just trying to get some damage back to where none of his push actually was the full push, and that's a big problem when you're playing against this type of deck.
And a question from the chat show saying, why do you always call it the 6-man? And that's one of my, I've told that story a bunch on streams, but the story behind that one, it was the Brenchon Cup Summer Edition, and I believe it was Razor versus Jack playing in the Brenchon Cup Summer Edition, and the format for that tournament was it's ban on first loss, so once you lose a game, then you get to ban. And Jack was trying to tell the league operations his ban, but obviously the cards are different names in different languages, right? Like, you know, it's not called the Royal Giant in Spanish and in Japanese, for example. It's, you know, you have different names for everything. And so Jack didn't know the name of Royal Recruits in English, so he wrote 6-man ? And it was Razor who figured out that he meant the Royal Recruits. And we all just thought it was great. We all really thought, we all had a good laugh. We all really enjoyed it. It was very endearing. And it just kind of stuck. So everyone who watched it there kind of adopted it. And it's just, it's, you know, honestly, it's saying 6-man is easier than saying Royal Recruits, and it's more fun. So there you go.
Yeah, I didn't know that story, actually. But that's actually really funny. And I know there's so many funny in a good way incidents where the language barriers are like that when we trained against Asian side teams and all this, when we're doing bans for 2v2. Now everything's more universal, but back then it was a lot less, and there were some very funny moments.
Yeah. Well, that's a question that came in the chat earlier, was how was it trying to prepare and coach and work with a team with the language barriers, right? Obviously, when it was Diego, Canario, and Serge all together, everyone speaks enough combination between Spanish and English to make that work. But then you throw Igor into the mix, and obviously that's a pretty big shift when it comes to language.
Yeah, definitely. So with the original Liquid with Boofmag and everything, we tried to keep it English because Boofmag doesn't speak Spanish. There was some parts where I'm just talking to Canario in Spanish. And then when it was the 3 of us, it could go any language was fair play, because Serge actually knows almost fluent Spanish at this point. He's learned it through being on Queso and traveling and actually wanting to learn. But once we picked up Igor from the airport, it was actually pretty funny. We had to use a Google Translate on the phone. So it was like, "Are you hungry?" And on the phone, and he would be, "Yeah, I'm hungry." And then it was, "What type of food do you want? You want sushi?" And he would look at us like, "I don't really know what that is." So we would actually have to look up pictures on Google of what it is. But you know, you work through it, and over the time, Igor now speaks a lot better English. He's worked on it so much, and it goes to show that it's not only working on your Clash on everything, but he's worked on actually learning a language so that his team could be better, you know?
Yeah, very cool.
But you know, when you're playing a game, it's the same in sports. It's a universal language, right? The game itself, the most important part, which is Clash and everything, it is a universal language.
So Schwarzen going Giant Skeleton Hog Rider in game number 3. JP looking like... Wait, did he play Graveyard last game? No, it was Schwarzen who played Graveyard.
No. Schwarzen played Graveyard last game.
Okay.
Yeah. We're all good.
Yeah, I was sitting there going for a second. Oh, boy. And Tornado, obviously, easy King Tower activation here. Goblin Cage, Ice Wiz, lots of annoyance for the Hog Rider here, obviously.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of... that Giant Skelly is going to be great for blocking on the bridge for Schwarzen, for the Graveyard pushes.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, he activated. I thought that he didn't have enough HP on that Valk.
And that King Tower activation, I feel like that has to swing the matchup significantly towards Schwarzen at this point.
Yeah, now it's a matter of, okay, not only can Schwarzen block your whole tanks on the bridge, it's also going to get no damage because now you have King Tower activated. So it's not looking great. On top of that, Schwarzen has Earthquake, which we spoke about before, that's cheaper and does more damage on spell-wise. So it's not looking great. Let's see, he needs to be careful just not to get any chip, not to allow any chip from JP at this point.
1994 on the right-hand side. 2092 Graveyard in with Barb Barrel on the left. And you see that King Tower activation completely shutting down this Graveyard in conjunction with the Giant Skeleton. Not a single hit point of damage comes in. So rough situation right now for JP.
Yeah, and these Earthquakes are just going to keep doing enough damage to where JP, I think, is going to suffer a lot. He needs to keep using so many different troops on defense, and I think he's already cycled another Giant Skelly. Yeah. It's not the best of situations, for sure.
Poison. Good use of the poison here by JP to get those spears off, and now Cage high. NATO will be there for control on the back end. I believe he has that in cycle. Yes, he does. So JP holding on pretty well here as we get in the triple.
Yeah, he actually got a lot of good RNG on that Graveyard as well. I think 3 or 4 Skellies hit, even with the King Tower activation and the troops defending. So one more of those and it could get a little tricky, but I just don't see it happening. In Triple Elixir, you can always have Earthquake cycled. He cycles pretty quickly with the Spear Goblins and the Electro Spirit Log. So I don't see it. I genuinely think he can just keep cycling defenses, keep the tanks blocked on the bridge, and it should be GG.
That damage did not get through on the right-hand side for the Hog Rider. Second Hog Rider does come in. Cage now one more time. EQ getting more damage. Final 40 seconds in. This time going with the Log to support the Hog. Does not get a shot again, though. 1024 remaining on the right-hand side. Final 30 seconds. 1475 to 1024. And JP is trying to pressure here on the left-hand side as much as possible. Hunter picks up the Baby Dragon, Graveyard in, and that Hog is going to get pulled to King Tower. Good choice on that defense against the Hog, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
No. Yeah, it's just the cycle is too quick. He has King Tower activation, and on top of that, the Earthquake does more damage. So there's no real place for him to win this unless he gets some good RNG here, which I highly doubt. Yeah, no time.
Trying to get some NATO on there. Skeleton's trying to make it close, but 544 is far too much. iAmJP falls to Schwarzen in a really, really tough final game matchup. And that King Tower activation, you know, you got to wonder how many more Skeletons could have got on, especially on that one big defense that was just the Giant Skeleton and King Tower activation. Got to wonder if without that, maybe there would have been a different story to this matchup.
Yeah. For sure. That King activation was the worst thing that could happen to JP. I think he wins this without that. But once that was activated, it's the same as in 2v2. You kind of hold your head and you're just like, nah, man. Anything but that. And in chat, I read throughout the day, like, where are you from? If you notice that English is not my first language, it's because I am from Venezuela. I was born there and I lived there throughout my childhood. But doing my best, you know. Some of the words I get mixed up just because I play and create content in Spanish, so I have to like translate it in my head before I say it.
Well, your English is far better than my Spanish, so we'll go ahead and give you that one. I believe. Let me go ahead and double check with this one. I'm just going to double check with League Operation. I believe that was our final match of the day. And guys, one more time, that's Eric Benemu at EB7. You see on Twitter down below. So go ahead and give him a follow there on Twitter. And of course, if you do speak Spanish, know Spanish at all, or don't even care about the language, want to see some good stuff, streaming on Twitch all the time at twitch.tv/Eric_EB7. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did I get it? And that's ERICK.
CK.
Yeah, not just the ERIK or ERIC. And there you go, taking a look at the results from the day, everybody. And as you can see on the winner's bracket, no huge surprises here that JupiteKing has moved down into round 3 on the winner's side. We have more winner's bracket action tomorrow that we'll be seeing, of course, both on the top and bottom in the winner's bracket and loser's bracket. Airsurfer over Hajime today. Bale and Belly will go head-to-head in tomorrow's action to see who will face Airsurfer in that next part of the winner's bracket. Of course, down in the other part of the winner's bracket, the matchup everyone's really excited to see for tomorrow, Ruben and Jack, will be an absolute banger. I'm really pumped for that one. And of course, Expo Master and Lucas. It's fun. A lot of classic players here having good performances, so excited to see Expo Master go up against the young man. And then tomorrow on the lower side, loser's bracket, the elimination side of things, Mohamed and Line will be a big one. JP and Elsiop. Yeah. Elsiop able to move on. Pompeyo and Hajime. And then you see a lot of players there on the lower bracket waiting to see who their opponent will be. Eric, from out of what we saw today, who were you the most impressed by?
Igor. No, I'm just joking. I had to throw it in there. I think Mohamed Light, if it wasn't for his decks, he actually played very well. Like we spoke about, like he lost, but he played so well. Line played amazing. And I think overall, the person that I think was the most dominant in their matchup, my opinion, was Elsiop. He won 3-0. Yeah, I know. He used one card that was repeated, but he won 3-0 and every game was super convincing. Those magic archers were great. I loved that set.
And here you guys go. There are all the matchups in chat for tomorrow. Sorry for the formatting, but you can see in chats on both sides. If you want to follow this bracket, by the way, there you go on the YouTube side is the challenge bracket. Sorry for Twitch. I'll get these things in there for you guys as well. There you go. There's our matchups for tomorrow. Bale and Belly, Ruben and Jack, Expo Master and Lucas, Molite and Line, Elsiop versus JP, Hajime and Pompeyo, Mini Minter and Wallace, Razor and Anaban, and then Sweep versus the loser of Bale versus Belican. So that'll be the lineup for tomorrow. And yeah, Elsiop with a big one today. Eric, so at EB7, anywhere else you want to send people to go ahead and see you for more Clash Royale stuff?
No, just that's it for me. I've had a great time casting with you today. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to your channel so that you guys can continue to see this event. And like you said, there's a lot more events coming this year, a lot of community things. So definitely I do this a little, I don't know if you guys have seen any of my YouTube videos, but it's a very nice tutorial where if you grab your mouse right now, there's like a little like button with the thumbs up and right next to it, a red button. And if you just click the left mouse button on each one of those, it works wonders. It's great. It's free. YouTube does it amazingly. So you should try it right now.
Yeah, thanks guys. I really do appreciate everyone coming to watch. That's it for the day. Thanks again to Eric for joining. This has been a really fun day of Clash Royale. We'll be back here tomorrow. That's 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And just do the math on wherever else you are. For Eric and for everyone here at the All Stars competition for Clash